Welcome, everybody. Almost there, 5,555 subscribers. Thank you very much for all the support. It means the world to me. It's been an amazing journey, as they always say. And happy 420. Well, that's just the time that I was free today after doing a few hours of prep for this. So the date and time does hold, or the date holds a special significance for John Dee in his diaries, as it's the only time in his diaries on April 20th, 1583, I think, where he mentions the word drugs or drogs, however you say it. And the angels are chastising him, it seems, for having run out. But then it seems like, anyway, we've covered it before in the past. So thanks for being here. Renee, Robert, Angela, Renee, me, Occultology. Good to see all of you guys. Yeah, we're going to have fun. But before we do, we have an event coming up. So check out this cool song about Dee and Kelly to promote this upcoming November conference that you can attend online or in person. Woohoo! Gonna be a blast. Check it out. Yeehaw, we're going to Texas, baby. It's going to be such a blast. I had a great time there in June and met a lot of great new people. And I'm excited to be back this November, as well as next April. I will be able to announce our headliners for next April, MagicCon. Probably going to be the last weekend in April. And soon I'll be able to announce the headliners, which is very exciting because they're epic. They're epic. And so are the ones at this year's Enochian. It's going to be a lot of fun. There should have been a new promo video by now, as well as some posters and flyers. But there was some shakeup, and so those have to be redone. And that's why you haven't seen any new media coming out regarding that. So everything's still great. Still having a massive lineup of some of the best presenters. Also, we'll have a podcast guest soon with one of the few Enochian authors that I've never talked to, David Shoemaker. Finally going to be talking to him. I was really excited to see him recording in Phil Collins studio, or is it Peter Gabriel? Oh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, yeah, don't confuse those two guys. They wouldn't be impressed. But I'm excited to talk to David Shoemaker, and we'll also get into, of course, his book on the Aethers, and his Aether work is quite interesting. So we're going to look at a couple things today. Hello, Renee. Thanks for being a channel member. Yeah, it's great. We actually are getting close to unlocking a new emoji. I don't know what that emoji will be, but I have some ideas. It could be very fun. And if you enjoy using emojis, then keep using them. As well, the book club starting this Sunday. And you can check out the tier on YouTube to join the book club as a member. And then you'll get the link to the Zoom thing. And we're studying Wouter Hanegraaff, Professor Hanegraaff's Hermetic Spirituality, the groundbreaking text. And along with Dr. Litwa's Hermetica 1 and 2 as, of course, guides to the actual Hermetica. And we'll do other stuff as well. It's in some ways, I guess you could call it a Hermetic Spirituality study group, but it's going to be focused around reading books and discussing what's discussed on those pages that month for the month. So a page a day, do a page of reading a day, and you could be able to keep up with the group. And we may record the sessions so that people who come in late can catch up. So that might be how that is done. We'll see. We'll talk about it. All right. Without further ado, let's get into, finally, at last, the best Enochian documentary or video on the interwebs. Obviously, Dr. Sledge has done some great deep dives, and so we don't need to talk about that. But this is the first sort of independent one that I found that's actually really good. There's errors, but it's really good. It's got almost 2 million views. It's amazing that an Enochian video could get almost 2 million views. But let this be a lesson to those out there making garbage content of how to do it well. So this is what well looks like, rather than complaining about how bad everything is all the time. And we'll do a little bit of that later, of course, as well. We'll look at Darley and Mage Space's master classes on Enochian at the end. But first, let's look at something really good, really excellent, and have some fun with it. So, without further ado.
Mystics of the past had a long-standing tradition of looking backwards at languages. Ancient, dead languages are ideal for sacred purposes, as they never change. But perhaps more importantly, their age and antiquity lend them an equal degree of sanctity, as the thought is that all languages in the world must trace their roots back to some primordial archetype. Theoretically, if you went far enough back, you would eventually come across the very first language in its most untouched form, pure, just as God or the gods delivered it. This language, for the purposes of our investigation, will be referred to either as celestial speech, angelical, or Enochian. They are all different terms for the same concept: the language of God and angels. The lore of Enochian largely derives from the...
So the reason I wouldn't give this video an A+ is because right there, it's citing selective names, whereas you should really differentiate, I think, in cataloging the names. So like Enochian and Ophanic, which are common names used today, are new names that weren't given to it by Dee and Kelly. So I would list the ones Dee called it, and then list the ones that humans after Dee lived called it. That's what I would do for a little, you could do it look cool on the graphics.
Book of Genesis, the Book of Revelation, and the apocryphal Book of Enoch. However, many key details between them were delivered during the alleged prophetic visions of two particular Englishmen in the 16th century. But we'll get to them in a bit. In the beginning, God spoke the universe into existence using a series of divine words, the letters of which burned onto 49 celestial tablets.
You'll notice in the thumbnail, I have actual Enochian letters and images, and I made those myself very slowly and painstakingly. It took me way longer than I'd like to admit. And then making the thumbnail, yeah, I used some processing and filters and stuff, but like it's arduous actually. It's just now spending an hour or two, I can do what would have required a graphic artist 5 hours to do. Whereas, it used to take me 2 hours just to make a shitty thumbnail.
But contained within these tablets was not only the language of creation.
This is Mr. Mythos.
But all
He's
knowledge.
great. How has no one told me about Mr. Mythos before now? Talia, why you just live down the street? Why didn't you be like, hey, check out Mr. Mythos? But now we're getting into Mr. Mythos. We might do the Abramelin video he did next. Who knows?
Present and future.
Not today.
And the very keys to unlock and enter the gates of heaven. These same tablets appear in different forms, in different religions throughout time. The Egyptians called it the Book of Thoth. Hebrew legends speak of the Sefer Raziel. But in Enochian, the language of heaven and angels, they are known as Loagaeth, or speech from God. In the Garden of Eden, Adam spoke the language found within Loagaeth, holding familiar conversations with the Creator and giving every plant, creature, and object its true.
Some fun fact about that weird word, Loagaeth. You might think that there is a proper way to say it, and it just seems there's disagreement over it. And that's so like Aaron Leach says it Loga to follow sort of the pronunciation, like as in logos, Loga, like logos. And Dr. Burns says Loagaeth, pronouncing all the sounds as in English. And so my point is, don't worry about how you pronounce it.
Name. But his fluency was stricken when he and Eve were expelled from paradise. No longer could Adam speak with God or with the angels. In order to communicate with his family, Adam created the first human language based on his fractured and flawed memories of the celestial speech. This would have been an ancient form of Hebrew that would be wholly unrecognizable today. It was 7 generations later that the prophet Enoch, from which Enochian gets its name, was deemed worthy enough by the archangels to not only
I'm not really sure why he says an ancient form of Hebrew, because Hebrew comes from other languages. So maybe he means a different language, like one of the languages that Hebrew came from, because it comes out of Phoenician, right? Or the alphabet does. Proto-Semitic is where Hebrew comes from. Why it shares root words with Ugaritic. Ugaritic, for example. Yadun in Ugaritic means Lord, and it's the root word for both the Greek god's name Adonis and the Hebrew word Adonai. They both come from the root word in Ugaritic. Yadun, apostrophe DN is how it's written in English transcriptions.
But to visit heaven to view the angelic choirs, the throne of God, and the celestial tablets themselves. During his visit, he copied 366 books, a mere fraction of the celestial tablets, and he was instructed by the angels to reseed this wisdom back into humanity. Alas, Enoch would ultimately fail, as his work was lost in the great flood that destroyed the world. Adam's primordial Hebrew tongue persisted up until the incident at the Tower of Babel. There, the rulers of Babylon ordered the construction of a colossal tower that was to reach heaven itself. Sickened by this hubris, God confused the tongues of the builders, severing all mode of communication between them and ending the project for good. Eventually, the builders moved away from Babylon and founded their own nations.
And yeah, so we're sort of celebrating 5,555 subs today. That's great. But also it's a Q&A. Ask me questions. We'll enjoy hanging out, watching some content, and thinking about Dee and Kelly and how exciting it is to explore that Elizabethan world and the ways in which it bridges to our own modern world. I don't know if you've done much Enochian practice, but there's a lot of fun ways to get into it, and there's a lot of fun things to do with it. By fun, I'm being tongue-in-cheek, of course. I'm keeping it light because it's a sunny Thursday afternoon here in Vancouver, BC. So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to ask, and we'll reroute into them.
Establishing the various language families of the world. Adam's original Hebrew was lost, and the final fragments of the first language died with it. Millenniums pass. Our final stop is Renaissance England. The year is 1582, and a pair of new prophets begin to receive messages from beings claiming to be angels. The two Englishmen, a world-famous mathematician and an alchemist with a dark past, are told that they were selected to reseed the lost angelic language into humanity, and they are given.
By the way, it's so funny that Kelly gets characterized as having a dark past, where Dee's father and brother were executed by the queen. Or was it the king at the time? Yeah, it was the king. Maybe Mary was over. I can't remember if it was if Mary had taken over yet, but they were executed, and Dee was in jail for heresy and barely escaped the fate of his brother. So like wouldn't that count by most people's reckoning as a dark past? Maybe again. So there again, history has been very unkind to Kelly, and it's only recently in the last 20 years that he's been given a second look. So if you're new to Enochian and like, why are people saying nice things about Kelly? It's like, oh, they weren't for the last 400, 300 years. It's only very recently that we've started to say nice things about Kelly and reconsider how he's been framed and maligned throughout history. Because, yeah, there's no evidence of Kelly having a bad past at this point. Not at this point. None whatsoever. Dee almost got executed.
This knowledge through a series of complex cryptographic puzzles. I'm Mr. Mythos, and I welcome you to Truth or Lore. Be sure to subscribe if you love the mysteries of history like I do. Every sub is a massive support to the videos I make on my channel. You're about to explore not only the fascinating Enochian language itself, but also the truly mind-bending escapades of the two men involved. Without further ado, we'll begin by meeting our main protagonist, Dr. John Dee. This is Dee, a man described as tall and slender, with a very fair, clear sanguine complexion, a long beard as white as milk. He wore a gown like that of an artist, with hanging sleeves. But more than handsome and well-dressed, Dr. John Dee was undoubtedly one of the most influential forces in England. He was a world-renowned mathematician, linguist, navigator, inventor, astronomer, and astrologer, and through this capacity, he was the right-hand advisor to Queen Elizabeth I. Very little could occur without his expert consult, or a trip to his home in the town of Mortlake.
Okay, that's where we're going to have to go back and listen to that, what they just said. But here's a question. I'm working through Ike Baker's etheric magic system. Is that a valid prerequisite for Enochian stuff? It has no direct connection. I mean, exercising is good training for a sport, but it's still not training for that sport. So I'd say that counts as exercising, but the best way to prepare for Enochian magic is to study Enochian magic. And everything else helps, of course, just like things always help synergistically for us. Oh, you're working on your Seal of Karmara. Very cool. Yeah, I'm got a new one in the works for the conference myself.
Well-dressed, Dr. John Dee was undoubtedly one of the most influential forces in England. He was a world-renowned mathematician, linguist, navigator, inventor, astronomer, and astrologer, and through this capacity, he was the right-hand advisor to Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh, wait, I only checked out bits of this before we watched it. I saw that it had like almost 2 million views or whatever, and the bits I checked out look good. This is some pretty substantial errors here. He wasn't in any way, shape, or form the right hand of Queen Elizabeth. He never even had a formal appointment and never even got any sort of money from her other than basically spare change she would give him when she would visit him at Mortlake. And he would have to come out and talk to her. She wouldn't come in or anything like that. She would come and consult with him in the street, and he would talk, and that was it. And he was very much let down by her and disempowered by her when he should have been empowered. So it's very odd. And clearly there's stuff we don't know.
Very little could occur without his expert consult, or a trip to his home in the town of Mortlake, which was considered at the time to be the largest and richest library in England, with more than 4,000 ancient scientific tomes, many of which he had sought and collected by hand. Dee lived during the English Renaissance, a time when science, magic, and religion blended like paints on a palette, and were largely considered interconnected parts in a grand search for understanding.
I mean, magic was not really fully integrated because they couldn't mention ever doing Goetia or stuff like that because you could get in serious trouble for that. So magic as a whole wasn't integrated. Some things we would consider today magic were then integrated.
Dee was an intense Christian, and many times stated that all knowledge served God. His religious beliefs were strongly influenced by Hermetic philosophies.
Yeah, he's a
Thus,
Hermetic Christian.
He believed
like
that the divine could influence nature, and natural scientific application could influence the divine. We find astrology and alchemy to be...
Yeah, you got to remember, in mainstream Christian thought, the idea that God was part of the world in any way, or that there was any of the substance of God in humans, was wrong. Like that was heresy. That was not something people believed. It was only with the Reformation that theologies that allowed for that started to come along, and that's partly why you see the Hermetica being so interesting to the fellows in Italy during the Renaissance, because they saw this Hermetic panentheism of God radically immanent and radically transcendent at the same time, which is the sort of the Hermetic view. And it wasn't the Christian view. The Christian was the dualistic world. God is apart from creation, separated from it, and acts supernaturally in it, not naturally from within it.
Prime examples of this. But a third branch, known as theurgy, began to obsess Dee's mind. As the scientific world became more and more known to him.
I mean, Enochian isn't really, like, there's theurgic aspects of Enochian magic for sure, but fundamentally it's conjuration. Theurgy is rather different, if you know what I mean. Conjuration is such a distinct practice because you're calling spirits, daimones, angels, to appear and communicate with you, and theurgy has that aspect in many ways. But yeah, I don't know why he says theurgy instead of conjuration, because they're distinctly different.
He sought knowledge that could not be extracted from the natural world. Theurgy, which translates to operation of the gods, was a study and practice of invoking supernatural deities such as angels to acquire lost knowledge or disclose ancient mysteries.
And again, thinking that, let's not make the mistake of thinking that there was only one form of theurgy ever, with one definition, just like there wasn't one form of Gnosticism or what we call Gnosticism, and there wasn't one form of most things. So whenever someone gives you a singular definition for something that existed in plurality, take it with the necessary salt.
Though his independent theurgical practice seemed to hit walls at every turn, one autumn evening...
See, other than prayer, I don't see too much theurgical practice that I would identify outside of the realm of, say, Renaissance Catholic mysticism. Dee was a Catholic mystic of the Hermetic variety, and a Catholic priest, a married priest, as they used to call them. They would say that. They would remind them that they were married.
Of 1581, John Dee knelt in prayer, and, according to his journal, there suddenly glowed a dazzling light, in the midst of which, in all his glory, stood the great angel, Uriel. This entity handed Dee a bright, clear crystal, the size of an egg, and told him that by gazing through it, he could establish contact with angels. If you've ever seen...
Why does he say that?
One autumn evening of 1581, John Dee knelt in prayer, and, according to his journal, there suddenly glowed a dazzling light, in the midst of which, in all his glory, stood the great angel, Uriel. This entity handed Dee a bright, clear crystal, the size of an egg, and told him that by gazing through it, he could establish contact with angels. If you've ever seen an image of an old wizard gazing into a crystal ball,
there's contradictory
this
stories
cliché
there.
finds its roots in the story of John Dee. This technique would become known as...
It doesn't originate with John Dee. That's not true.
Scrying,
either.
Where messages are transmitted from alternate realities by gazing into a suitable reflective surface. Dee called his crystal a shoe.
And Dee would call that alternate reality God or spirit.
Stone. And for weeks, he tried to use it following Uriel's exact instructions, with no luck. Frustrated, he eventually hired other scryers, and they either failed the same as him, or were caught by Dee's careful eye as frauds. That was, until a year later, that a man approached John Dee and introduced himself as Edward Talbot, although his real name, or at least what we believe to be his real name, was Edward Kelly. To modern historians, many details of his true identity and perhaps dark and troubled past remain uncertain. Edward Kelly wore a cap on his head to hide the fact that both of his ears were cropped, a common punishment for forgery. He claimed to descend from the family of Umain of Ireland, and that he worked as a notary in London, though his name was not in the registry of any.
Yeah, you're asking Fred or Parabolus, is he saying that Dee contacted Uriel by himself? Yeah, that's... Yeah, there's different accounts, but that's not really... I think that's more based on repeated stories.
Any known university, it is certain that Kelly was well educated, particularly in alchemy, and he knew both Latin and Greek. In their very first meeting, Kelly did what no other before him could do. He saw, heard, and spoke to the angels as an almost innate talent, and John Dee was convinced that Kelly's skill was genuine. To this day, there are reasons to side with Dee's assessment, despite the questionable character of Kelly. And this we'll explore in depth later. As for now, it was this fateful meeting that marked the beginning.
Yeah, Kelly didn't have a questionable character really in Dee's mind. That's the sort of the stories that were perpetuated later on. See my deep dive with Dr. Burns on Edward Kelly from last month, and that live stream was great. We go into all of the details of Kelly's life.
Tense and eventful partnership that would last for 7 years, in which Dee and Kelly would perform scrying sessions almost daily. Under John Dee's command, these were conducted with the utmost Christian piety, forcing long periods of prayer.
Yeah, you'd think that if Kelly's ears had been cropped, that someone would have noticed it when he was a knight serving with a landed knight and gentry with lands, serving in the court with noble people in Prague. You think there'd maybe be one reference by any of those people who saw him all the time, or by his kids or something.
Purification and fasting prior. Then Kelly would gaze into sacred objects, such as Dee's mystical shoe stone and a black obsidian mirror, and report.
Okay, so it's called a show stone, like a tablet of showbread, and SHEW is just the old way of writing show, because they're go show or show you, or maybe they pronounced it shoe, and their accent would have been closer to the American accent in Elizabethan England. Shoe you, and then the black obsidian mirror was taken by an explorer from South America, and it was never in Dee's possession. It was just added to that collection to make it look cool.
His visions. And in his precious journals, Dee would carefully document everything that Kelly saw or heard. In that first angelic conference, Kelly made contact with one of the 7 planetary archangels, Anel, who claimed to be the current successive ruler of the cosmos.
Well, why would we care what
sessions?
Eastern Europeans think about what happens in their own cities? Yeah, I know. The West is the best, and that bias has perhaps undone us.
Anel then introduced the 2 Englishmen to the 4 archangels known as Uriel, Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. It was these angels and the lesser angels directed by them that would eventually deliver the language we call Enochian.
See, this is what I love about it. He nailed the fact that where do these spirits come from? Oh, it's who knows? Are they satanic? No, he's like, the 4 archangels showed up and said, here's our ministers, these good angels and other spirits that control matter and minerals and health and elements and all the forces beneath the moon, and even perhaps some beyond, but mostly Enochian spirits are seen as sublunar. The aethers wrap around the earth, for example, rather than lead up to Kether. Crowley had them made it so they go up to Kether and back, but that's Crowley's Enochian magic. It's the Lemic Enochian magic, and we'll have fun. I'll have a lot of fun getting into that and the ideas behind it, the experience of it with David Shoemaker, who is from that tradition. So I look forward to that, because I think that's the common approach. And why not? Crowley learned it from
John Dee was a learned scholar and knew well the legends of Enoch, the last purported human to speak with angels. In fact, he had long thought about the prophet.
Okay, maybe. Well, we're enjoying this anyway, so I could have watched the entire thing, but I didn't in advance. But the last person to speak with angels showing up all the time, right? They're men. Angels in the Bible are always men, and they show up all the time. 2 men shows up, and they're angels, and Lot takes them in, and all kinds of horrible things happen. So yeah, that Enoch was the last one to talk to angels. Unless I'm going crazy, and he was, but I seriously doubt it. No.
Even before his vision of Uriel. Enoch was an alluring and highly mysterious figure for many scholars during Dee's time.
And Uriel and Oriel are the same. People started saying Oriel because they got better at Hebrew and realized that the name in Hebrew is Or, for light of God. But the Latin transcription and older transcriptions are with a U. Uriel, Oriel, but yeah, it's sometimes O with an O, Oriel. Either way, it's the light of God.
And there are good reasons for this. To begin, he is only mentioned once in the entire Old Testament, and just as an entry in a long list of forefathers within the book of Genesis. There we learn that Enoch was the father of Methuselah, the longest-lived human in the Bible at 969 years, and the great-grandfather of Noah, who built the ark to survive the Great Deluge. But these relations are not why Enoch is so fascinating. 7 is a sacred number in the Bible, and Enoch is the 7th generation from Adam. Next, Enoch is said to have lived 365 years, another sacred number as the number of days in a solar year. Lastly, he is the only forefather in the entire list without a record of death. His passage reads as follows: Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And that is the last mention of Enoch in the Old Testament. That is, unless you count the apocryphal Book of Enoch, which, after 500 years of being biblical canon, was stricken from the official Bible by both Jewish and Catholic authorities as blasphemy around the year 200 AD. This ancient and unique text contains the story of fallen angels, the origins of giants known as Nephilim, and the moral reasoning behind the Great Flood in Genesis. But perhaps most importantly, it fleshes out the details of the prophet Enoch and serves as the oldest known record of his life. By the medieval era, no living person in the Western world.
Well, to be fair, Frater Parabolis, he's referring to the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. Maybe he means, obviously he must be in the Hebrew Bible, because obviously angels show up and talk to people in the New Testament, but he's talking about the Hebrew Bible when he says that was the last person to talk to angels. I mean, Mary talked to angels, right? So yeah, but when he says that, he's not including the New Testament or the Quran. Yeah. But yeah, Tobias was saved by Raphael. That's a good point. Yeah, lots of conversations with angels after I'm not more sure where you got this. I guess it's almost 2 million views this video has. So yeah, I guess, yeah. Anyway,
had ever read it.
It's well done.
The legend of Enoch persisted only by word of mouth. So long had scholars and mystics continued to search for a surviving copy. But this would be found in Ethiopia in the 18th century, 200 years after John Dee died.
Some beautiful.
So now you understand why it made sense that in 1583, one of Dee's first serious requests to the angels was for a copy of the Book of Enoch, as one of the known powers of angels was finding and obtaining long-lost texts. To his surprise, the archangels agreed, and they indeed upheld their promise to Dee. They brought him a Book of Enoch. However, it wasn't the apocryphal lost chapter of the Bible that Dee had in mind.
You don't need the old Book of Enoch. You'll find that in 200 years.
More
we got
valuable
something
treasure.
else for you boys.
The celestial tablets that Enoch himself had read and copied from during his legendary visit to heaven.
See?
The angels called it Loagaeth. In their language, this translated to speech from God. They told the two men that it contained the 49 speeches God used to create the world, entrances to the 48 gates of heaven, and the recorded destinies of all things in the universe in all dimensions of time. To Edward Kelly, the book appeared as a tome of 49 leaves, and each leaf contained two 49 by 49 square grids, one on the front and one on the back. An alien script filled the squares, the letters of which had been delivered in the form of a 21-character talismanic alphabet just days earlier. Here, they were written in what Kelly assumed to be the blood of lambs, as referenced in the Book of Revelation. Upon the receival of Loagaeth, Dee understood the tables to be a series of cryptographic puzzles, as the angels did not immediately provide a way to translate or decipher the grids. They only stated that the purpose of the book of
all magicians do. The tables, the holy spreadsheets. Oh, I love it. Man, it's so cool. We're 2 subs away from 5,555 subscribers. I honestly didn't even think it would ever get that high when I started this YouTube in 2021. I really didn't. And a lot of people are like, it's not high. It's, well, it is for me, you know. Yeah, pretty cool. Love you all for being here.
Loagaeth was to open the gates of heaven, either to summon angels to earth, or to enter the celestial realm directly, as Enoch once did. The angels explained that John Dee was expected to continue where Enoch had failed. Dee was to become a new prophet of God, and reseed the lost language of angels back.
And he did not want to do this. The one thing we know from his diaries is he did not want to do this. Like, he's arguing the night before he goes to rant and rave prophetically to Rudolph II, the Holy Roman Emperor. He's begging the angels to not make him do it. And they're like, no, you must do this or you're a failure. He's like, guys, it's the first time I'm meeting the Holy Roman Emperor. Can't I just like be nice and get to know the guy first before declaring that if he doesn't do what you say, doom shall fall upon them? And the angel's like, no, you must do it. And things did not go well. So he was, like most prophets, resistant to the call, aren't we all?
Into the world of man. As he conducted his seances, Dr. John Dee simultaneously instructed the science of navigation to many of those who would conduct England's voyages of discovery, and he found himself struck with a similar inspiration and opportunity. With the Queen's blessing, the doctor abruptly left his position at her side to travel to continental Europe, with Edward Kelly and their families trailing behind. They would spend the next 6 years as nomads as they keenly continued their angelic seances from city to city and attempted to win the patronage of kings, emperors, and clergymen. Copious notes in John Dee's journals reveal that Dee was more enthusiastic than ever, and Kelly was initially just as committed to their mutual goal when they arrived on the continent. But over time, it became apparent that Kelly was more interested in alchemy than scrying, and they scryed nearly every day.
And that's a simplification. I mean, Kelly was interested in a lot of things, and he wanted to do some Goetia too, but Dee in his diaries made sure to write, oh no, I would never do such a thing, because of course he had to write that. He was writing a lot of his diaries to be shown to nobility or members of the papal nuncio to report back to the Pope on what he saw. So he was, you know, the diary you write next to your bed at night might be different than the one you write at your desk earlier on in the day to show to the Pope's emissary. Maybe.
As the months and years passed, Kelly expressed deepening frustrations and a desire to stop. But Dee insisted that they continue their work.
I mean, Kelly was, so the thing that's downplayed is Kelly was a very serious alchemist, and he probably did know how to make some things that maybe no one else knew how to make. That's very possible. And if you were that talented and some guy was wasting you from morning to night, looking to scry with spirits in prophetic information and magical secrets, when you can go make compounds that no one else can make, I could see why you're like, look, dude, you're only paying me $50K a year, which is basically what Dee was paying him. And I want to move on. And he did move on, and he did get money and property, and him and Dee called all their debtors in and had a huge pile of money on the desk in Kelly's new tower and castle. And we basically did it to mog their debtors who they had become indebted to over their years of struggling in Prague. And then when Kelly makes it, they call them in, and they actually just like set it up to be like, check out all our money. Here's your little fraction that we owed you. And it's too good. Too good. Yeah, I highly recommend the biographies on Dee. And the upcoming re-release of the one on Kelly via
the second set of Enochian texts were received by Kelly in 1584 in the city of Krakow, where they stayed in the court of Polish King Stefan Batory. These would be known as the 48 Keys, and there is a distinct difference between the language written in them versus the language used in the Book of Loagaeth. Whether they are two dialects of the same celestial speech, as Dee postulated, the 48 keys can be considered as the Enochian language proper, as this time around they were given translations, thus providing a foundation of Enochian grammar and vocabulary. As for the contents, the 48 keys are an example of pure esoteric literature. On the surface, they seem to be a series of archaic and convoluted poetic verses. But in order for one to decipher the actual meanings behind them, that person would need to possess deep knowledge of astrology, ancient Hebrew mysticism, and numerology. Even John Dee, who is a world-recognized expert in these fields, would never fully deduce their meanings. And this was a problem, as the angels revealed that the true purpose of the 48 keys was to present a solution to the 49 cryptographic puzzles in the Book of Loagaeth. Finally,
Yeah, I find it interesting that he framed Dee as practicing theurgy, in which case you would think that what matters to Dee, and that he would understand that what matters to Dee is the relationship to God through these various spirits, daimones, angels, and such. But then he's analyzing the value of content, received via scrying and conjuration, drawing spirits into crystals, as it were, the Trithemian method, right? Which is, it's pseudo-Trithemius, but it's still Trithemian and predates Dee. So crystal scrying, again, he's wrong about crystal scrying coming from Dee. I don't know how he got there, but anyway. Yeah, again, that's not generally seen as theurgy if you're scrying spirits. So why would Dee care?
allowing Dee and Kelly to access the literal words of God, and their destiny as successors of Enoch. This lock and key system between the two texts was referred to as Gebofal by the archangels, and involved a 49-day ritual over which each key would invoke the angel guarding one of the 49 gates of heaven. These gates represented by the magic.
And I gotta say, I love that so many people are doing Gebofal, but I don't understand why they skipped the first initiation. Like, the angels gave us 2 initiations. Why do the second one first? Why is it just the desire to, like, I don't know.
Tables in Loagaeth. Moving on, we now approach one of the most perplexing pieces of evidence for Enochian authenticity. If the delivery of the Book of Loagaeth seemed like a simple case of glossolalia, or speaking in tongues, particularly as there were never any translations given, the picture becomes a bit more complicated when considering exactly how the 48 keys were received in Krakow. Each key was processed letter by letter, word by word, backwards. The exact process is understood by piecing together Dee's highly detailed notes and transcripts. For example, Edward Kelly, in his trance, would report that the angel
more than you could know.
Points to column 5, rank 23.
Yeah, so this is the other thing I checked out that I liked about his video that made me think that, oh yeah, this deserves like over 1 million views for sure, because he's showing you the arduous method in which they receive these transmissions. And when you understand the way they received them and what they then equated and translated as, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. And we will be going into the minutiae of some of that again this November 6th through 8th at EnochiaCon, live in Austin, Texas, but also available online. Register today.
The Arcane Research Society returns to bring esoteric scholarship and practice in 2026 with 2 major events held in Austin, Texas. Register for an annual membership and attend online or in person all of our annual events. including June 13th, our spring workshop, and November 6th through 8th, EnochiaCon, our full esotericism conference. The ARS Spring Workshop features 3 workshops led by Jason Louv, Craig Williams, and Frater RC. Spend a whole day in downtown Austin, Texas, enjoying these hands-on deep dives with experts in their fields. Register today for all live events included with ARS annual membership, Spring Workshop, and EnochiaCon, which features too many amazing presenters to name. Sign up today at arcaneresearchsociety.com.
Oh, I didn't forget about you.
John Dee would then
But I do hope you come to the conference.
reference the relevant grid in the Book of Loagaeth and write down the letter he found in that square. Once the cipher sequence was complete, Dee was instructed to rewrite each word backwards to reveal the true message. So what does this mean? Well, if we were to take the stance that Kelly was a con man, we would have to consider an incredible feat. To produce the keys, he would have had to memorize the grids within the Book of Loagaeth. There are 96 grids in total, each 49 by 49 squares. This requires knowing the identity and exact position of 117,649 talismanic letters. Not to mention that he would have had to create his own functional language, write poetry in it, and painstakingly spell those poetic verses backwards to John Dee. Why would Kelly go through all this trouble? If he was attempting to deceive Dee, wouldn't there have been an easier way? Clearly, meticulous care was taken in the delivery of the keys. There were no misspellings, nor were there noticeable errors in word usage between parts. After the ciphers were written, English translations were tapped out on little strips of paper, emerging from the angel's gaping mouth. This is how the Enochian we know today was received.
Pahe zodi mi du ive odar no as te arcanis ardroke dor pehar ka oscar odar ion te es tiritso. The mighty sounds have entered in the third angle and are become as olives in the olive mount, looking with gladness upon the earth and dwelling in the brightness of the heavens as continual comforters.
Now would be a good time to cross-examine Enochian itself and ask whether it's a real functional language. To begin, Enochian has been studied by many linguists throughout the years to determine its characteristics and authenticity as a natural language, as opposed to an invented one. Here's what they learned. Enochian possesses its own unique phonetic system, grammar, and syntax, with a vocabulary that may be rather limited due to the non-availability of other texts, but is still able to produce subtle, complex, and intricate parlance, as seen in the translation of the 48 keys. This has led skeptics to believe that the Enochian language may actually be plagiarized from another linguistic source. But Enochian shows no relation to any known language, including Biblical Hebrew, which is often thought by Christians and Jews to be the closest relative to the original primordial language of Adam. The linguistic problem created by this is that historians of languages generally agree that it's impossible for a person to invent a new language without drawing from existing sources, whether intentionally or not. If Enochian,
and let's be clear, it doesn't hold up to the standards of a language fully, partially, not fully. Though, you know, my friends who are also, who what I'm talking about, yeah, they're they've convinced me it's not glossolalia, but it's somewhere in between. I think what Dr. Burns and I both agree on is that it's a magical language, and we see that it's not the only one in our cultures. So it's a thing that humans do with spirits.
Truly is unique in this regard, one must seriously consider the possibility that this language delivered to Edward Kelly is natural, or technically supernatural. Even the most respected and challenging critic of Enochian, the linguist Donald Laycock, writes the following at the conclusion of the complete Enochian dictionary, which he authored. We still do not know whether it is a natural or an invented language. If the language itself is difficult to challenge, we must now turn to its script system. The Enochian alphabet has 21 letters. When spelled, diacritical marks, also known as accents, may be included, and only a scant few letters have direct English equivalents, while many have their own unique pronunciation. Enochian script is written from right to left.
They're all given English equivalents, and they all have their own pronunciation. So I'm not sure what he means there.
Which is its only similarity to ancient biblical Hebrew. If Kelly or Dee drew inspiration from another source, it's possible that we'd find it in the alphabet.
Oh, we know the sources that it was inspired from.
Which was the first angelic material received by Kelly, just days before the Book of Loagaeth in March of 1583. It's notable that John Dee once owned an alchemical treatise written by Giovanni Pantheus in 1530, which contained a table labeled Enochian Alphabet of the Ancients. In the treatise itself, one can find an abundance of notes scribbled by John Dee, and even an attempt to write his own name using Pantheus's alphabet. But if you look closely, there is virtually no similarity to the angelic script received by Edward Kelly. If anything, this just shows that Dee's pursuit of the Enochian language dates back further into his academic career than what was once thought. Though John Dee and Edward Kelly continued to work cooperatively, the tension between the two Englishmen grew starkly as they traveled the continent, particularly after the reception of the 48 Keys. During this time, a close associate remarked that Dee seems to have driven Kelly to the brink of insanity, forcing him to perform long scrying sessions on a near daily basis.
Yeah, that is true. Now, one of the things that was a tension between them, starting with being in Poland, is Kelly started being in touch and spending time with some Jesuits, I believe, or at least people in the Jesuit sphere, other nobles. And that continued in Prague to the point where he was becoming very much spiritually inspired by the whole Jesuit movement and direction of Christianity. And that was something Dee was not super interested in. So that's something they don't usually mention because it's not all that sexy, right?
To add to this, Dee demanded long periods of fasting and cleansing before each. Perhaps this unending stress upon Edward Kelly is what brought about the infamous cross-matching incident that would ultimately lead to the destruction of their partnership. In 1587,
and one of the thought exercises I like to do when looking at these videos, it's why I love doing them with you so much, is because I like to keep myself in different frames of mind, different paradigms. And there's my normal one, just me. And then there's one that thinks this and one that thinks that. And a fun one is, what if P.D. Newman is right? Everyone know what P.D. Newman's theory is about Edward Kelly and the secret of the Philosopher's Stone and Enochian magic? Let me see it. Three letters. Anyway, it's a 3-letter secret. And what if, so when you think about this, what if the whole time he was able to make that Philosopher's Stone and they were able to use that? Gives you a different context for everything. Again, we don't have any proof that that is the case, but you know, the theory is not weak. And until someone debunks it, we'll keep exploring it, I guess.
Kelly made contact with the angels once more, but this time they brought with them an unexpected demand. In the interest of furthering the philosophical partnership of the two men, they ordered that John Dee and Edward Kelly share everything they had. Everything. And this included their wives. Dee was hurt and anguished by this order, as was his wife, Jane, who reportedly fell weeping and trembling. Of course, he initially objected, but after days of interrogation of Kelly and the angels themselves, should they be demons in disguise, he became convinced at the end that the order was genuine and that it was God's will. John Dee wrote in his diary, May 22nd.
So you also got to keep in mind, it didn't happen just once. They didn't do this just once. It sounds way weirder that they would do it just once, but they didn't. They did it happened at least several times. It's such a weird one because, you know, they couldn't talk about what's it called, free love back then in the same way that we could talk about now. Be like, oh, you know, well, they're in an open relationship, and then everyone goes, oh, okay, it's nothing. Back then they probably had different, I mean, people were still people, right? So it's what does seem very certain is how traumatic it was for Dee's younger wife, because she didn't like Kelly. So that's what there is the ick. There's the ick, and that is a justifiable ick, in my opinion. Dr. Justin Sledge covered that one. Check it out. And I don't know that it's a settled, we don't have any settled opinions on it. It's interesting to think what we might still learn, especially as we hopefully spend more time in Prague and including Czech scholarship into what we know here in the West, where we're of course the best. What our limited knowledge is, given the fact that these characters never even stepped foot on our continent here in North America. Shout out to America. Hey, America. Hey, England. Love you, England. And Scotland, and Ireland, and Canada. Get way more viewers in England. It's because of CanCon laws that are supposed to promote Canadian content. Those 3 letters, too.
Mistress Kelly received the sacrament, and to me and my wife gave her hand in charity, and we rushed not from her. The pain and regret proved too much for Dee, and he could no longer proceed with their angelical meetings.
Hermetically, I might analyze this and say, look, this is nous, the information from God and spirits, or a spirit, daimones, coming through us, and we got to channel it through logos. We, as hermetists, we thank God for having reason, logos, to understand things. And we're meant to use that reason, that logic, and not necessarily take every little random interpretation we have of inspiration for the first thing that we think it is, or what someone else says it is. That's kind of tyrannical to let someone else tell us that their interpretation is the correct divine one from the heavens. It seems odd.
9 months later, Jane Dee gave birth to a son, Theodorus.
Don't abandon logos for
Dee.
nous.
There was speculation among them that the boy was actually Kelly's, but Theodore was raised as Dee's own, and Dee loved him indifferently.
Yeah, I'm not going to say what you've said, but yeah, as far as trial and error, check out Elias Ashmole, you know, one of the founders of the Royal Society. He has a whole list of all the different substances and medicines and plants that he tried out in the process of learning what they do. Those guys had fun lives, aristocrats, sitting around getting messed up on things and seeing what they would do to them. Medicines and poisons. M-A-D, Made, Mada. It's so great to have a celebration stream. That's what today is for me. That's how I'm approaching it. Yeah, we're going to have some fun at the end too.
Cross-matching incident would remain a secret for the remainder of John Dee's life. In 1589, he and his family returned to England, and Edward Kelly found work as the chief alchemist of Rudolph II. They would never see each other again. It's finally time to dive into the theories surrounding the authenticity of Enochian.
It's interesting. Like, I don't think we do need more books on Dee and Kelly and Enochian. And, I do have an Enochian book with 30,000 words written, but it's got a long ways to go. But that's 30,000 like finished words, edited and everything. But I'd like to find a way to write about their lives and their history, but not through the usual methods of historical analysis or biography. Maybe poetry and song, because I've already got the 2 songs written for this year's Enochiacon and for next year's, which is the Ballad of Dee and Kelly, which will be done traditional ballad style, maybe with a little electric thrown in there for fun, and some keys. But I'd like to, because I think there's so much nuance and humanity in their tale, especially that could be informative to those of us in the spiritual worlds, in the church worlds, in the religious worlds, or even in any communities, because they all sort of function the same. And there's lessons to be learned about how we understand things and how that leads us to act, and whether that action actually helps us be in right relationship to the world around us, or maybe whether it doesn't. And so I think there's insights in the life of Dee and Kelly that I'd like to draw out, exegete, evoke from the texts of their lives, but I don't know how to approach it, and I'm thinking about that. So if you have any creative ideas, let me know.
We'll begin with the prime culprit, a man who has carried the label of fraud and charlatan for centuries,
Yes,
Edward Kelly. So who was he really? It's true that he was known to Dee under a different name, Edward Talbot, and we can only assume that Kelly was his real name. Historians know that he was well educated, but have difficulty.
And for more on Kelly and his name, check out the deep dive Dr. Burns and I did covering Vincent Bridges' writing. You can find it on the live tab.
Tracking down exactly where. The most likely institution is Oxford University, where the name Talbot of Ireland was found as a Bachelor of Divinity. According to students who housed with this Talbot, at some point he abruptly left Oxford with an unsettled mind. The reason for his leaving remains unknown. And
and I think Dr. Burns confirmed this is a different person, and Kelly might have just taken his name, but then again, maybe not. You'll have to check out the live she and I did. It was a good one.
Face value, Edward Kelly certainly fits the profile of an untrustworthy figure. Alleged crimes he was tried for in his past include forgery, counterfeiting, and necromancy.
So that's how they would compromise. Walsingham, the spy master, would compromise people like the famous playwright of Dr. Faustus, brain farting on the name. They would compromise them for coining or other minor crimes, and then force them to spy for them and go places and talk to people and report back to them, or they would, punish them more. So that's the compromat that Walsingham would use to compromise it. Kelly was one. What's his name? Oh my God, total brain fart on the author of Dr. Faustus. But yeah, so this was a common practice, and it's sad to see people still uncritically looking at that without reading either of the main biographies on Dee by Glyn Perry and Woolley.
Of using dead bodies to foretell prophecies. Thus, Many skeptics of Enochian's authenticity believe that Kelly deceived John Dee for the purpose of gaining money and influence, which is a legitimate motive. Dee...
I mean, in the early days of Dee working with Kelly still in England, they talked about this. Like, they even talked about this with the spirits. So these videos do a disjustice by not sort of at least psychoanalyze. You could psychoanalyze the fact that they were sort of self-aware of, you know, they were kind of critical. They were more like us than we would like to think as human beings back then, and throughout all time, it seems, the more we get to know our own history. And that's what's so cool about history, the more we realize we're similar to the past rather than different from it.
Never actually saw or heard the angels he communicated with. All messages were transmitted to and from through Kelly.
Oh, hell yeah, Frater Parabolas. I would not doubt that for a second, and I can't believe it didn't cross my mind. You say, pretty sure Walsingham was one of the reasons Dee never got proper patronage from Elizabeth. Very, very possibly. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it was because he couldn't compromise Dee. Maybe Dee was just too uncompromising. Or, I don't know.
Dee candidly confesses in his diary, "You know I cannot see nor scry." And this emphasizes the trust.
Christopher Marlowe was the author of Dr. Faustus. Of course, you know, that was the name in my head, and for some reason I was saying, no, it's Johnson. I'm like, no, it's not Johnson. Okay, Marlowe, Christopher Marlowe, man, rest in peace. Yeah, stabbed in a barroom fight, but yeah, spying. He was spying for douchebag Walsingham. I want to, for EnochiaCon, print out a, you know, take a photo of Walsingham or an image of his portrait, have AI turn it into a full body one, print it out, put it on the wall, and we'll play Pin the Tail on Walsingham. Inner Traditions Books is sending us $300 of their authors' books to give away as door prizes, so you can like pin the tail on Walsingham and get a book from Inner Traditions. We're doing it. We're doing that this November. So, and we got a hotel deal on rooms for $149 a night, so can't beat that. Downtown, right near the venue.
He placed in Kelly's word. This clearly leaves Kelly in an advantageous position, but there are indeed a multitude of problems with this theory. First, it seemed to John Dee and all other witnesses that Kelly was a rather reluctant participant in the long term of Dee's angelic pursuit. For someone who apparently wanted to break off the seances during the receival of the 48 keys, the arduous, stressful, and needlessly complex method of their delivery would appear to be...
If you've done scrying, like, the nice thing about scrying with yourself is you usually can't go too long unless you've got a big setup and doing the full shebang. That's how I find it. But if you're going back between communicating and transcribing, or even repeating, I mean, it can get exhausting fast. 2-3 hours can easily feel like a 10-hour workday. You're just done afterwards. And sometimes it's not like that. So there's lots to be learned still and shared amongst us practitioners to see ways that mitigate this. Timing, I think, is a big one. We've, up until my presentation at 2024's EnochiaCon, there was question about the timing and preparations for Enochian Magick, but I found it in Ashmole manuscript. And, you know, it floated around a bit in the academic world, but they never considered the significance of it. So it never emerged in the magical world until I brought it forth, and you can go check that out.
Be even more undesirable.
Yeah, scrying 9 to 5 is insane. Occultology nails it. Scrying 9 to 5 is insane. Yeah, and draining. And that's actually one of the arguments I think that's against the Dalet Mem Tav, Tet, Tav, Tet, Tav, potato, potato theory that that they were in using the Philosopher's Stone of Dalet Mem Tet at that time, because you couldn't do that 9 to 5. I think. I mean, you kind of could. I've met people that kind of do, but I don't know.
Again, we would have to assume that he not only memorized the positions of 117,649 characters, but that he could speak Enochian backwards. When many times Kelly complained to Dee that he could barely understand the learned tongues forward, why would he go through such lengths and trouble? Second, the English translation of the 48 keys display a completely different writing style as compared to Kelly's own works. The solution would be that Kelly plagiarized them, but yet again, no source material has ever been found. Third, it is often overlooked that Kelly was only one in a line of several scryers approved and employed by John Dee. Before him was Barnabas Saul. Then after Kelly was John Dee's own son, Arthur, who was finally succeeded by Bartholomew Hickman. If Edward Kelly had falsified the angelic conversations, stylistic, thematic, and methodological fluctuations between each scryer would be.
Yeah, and you know, for out of Parabolas, you say the longest session you did was 3 hours and you were wiped for days. What Kelly did blows your mind. And you might say, yeah, well, maybe some people can just handle it. But the point is, it's not just how long he did it and how long those sessions were required to be. Yeah, it's the quality. It's what came through. It's wild.
Be found in the transcripts recorded by Dee, and this is not the case. The reality is that Dee's conversations with the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel seem to change little from one scryer to the next, and with many direct parallels found between them. From this, we may actually begin to draw suspicions from another individual, the only one present through the entire length of this enterprise, Dr. John Dee himself. If there was any man capable of creating.
I just want to say I'll get to off-topic questions at the end, in between videos and stuff. So shoot them out.
Enochian. Perhaps it would have been John Dee. This man was incredibly learned, particularly in mathematics and, more relevantly, cryptography. Because of his expertise, John Dee was actually the founder of England's very first secret intelligence service, a predecessor to the UK's modern-day MI6. He established the world's most elaborate network of spies at that time under the rule of Elizabeth I. And when he wrote to his queen, he signed his name as 007, a trait that inspired that of.
And we know now that we know that's not true.
The fictional spy James Bond. And this leads to a rather interesting theory that John Dee was actually England's first spy, as he traveled across continental Europe with Kelly under the disguise of an eccentric old man searching for angels. Indeed, John Dee was loyally devoted to his beloved England. Who do you think coined the term learned, particularly in mathematics and, more relevantly, cryptography? Because of his expertise, John Dee was actually the founder of England's very first secret intelligence service, a predecessor to the UK's modern-day MI6. He established the world's most elaborate network of spies at that time under the rule of Elizabeth I. And when he wrote to his queen,
this is not true.
He signed
right.
his name as 007, a trait that inspired that of the fictional spy
But there
James
was
Bond.
spying going on. I think that's why Walsingham didn't need Dee, because Dee was already close to Elizabeth, and they were close, and he definitely was her man.
This leads to a rather interesting theory that John Dee was actually England's first spy, as he traveled across continental Europe with Kelly under the disguise of an eccentric old man searching for angels. Indeed, John Dee was loyally devoted to his beloved England. Who do you think coined the term British Empire? He was not only one of Queen Elizabeth's primary advisors, he was also her longtime personal friend. They first met when the young princess, Elizabeth Tudor, was held under house arrest by her paranoid half-sister, the ruling queen who would become known to history as Bloody Mary. Dee was Elizabeth's science tutor, and they developed a friendship which would eventually last a lifetime. As queen, Elizabeth funded many of his mystical endeavors and protected her friend against those who accused him of witchcraft.
She did protect him, she didn't fund things. Not really.
And Dee would always remain by her side, continuing close communication with her, even as he left England with Kelly. Maybe this fact grants Dee some deserved credibility and trustworthiness. On this note, we may also need to consider that Dee was an intensely devout Christian, and it was obvious to everyone around him that he took his research into the magic and language of angels seriously.
He was a Catholic priest, a Roman Catholic priest. I don't know why people miss that. It's like they just can't realize that this whole no marriage thing in practice is a very new phenomena, relatively speaking.
Seriously. Sometimes in vulnerable moments expressing great frustration over the torturous task of translation and understanding its convoluted pronunciation and grammar. His character is consistent and not easily doubted. Since the very kindling of his interest in divine wisdom, Dee sought it out not only for his own curiosity as an insatiable scholar, but as a sacred duty to heaven. He states in his journal, "My commission is from God. I feign nothing, neither am I a hypocrite, an ambitious man, or doting or dreaming in this cause." Thus, the last question asked by skeptics is often of Dee's sanity. During his lifetime, there were never any signs of mental illness reported by his family or associates, one of whom commented that Dee's approach to every seance was singularly free from deluded fanaticism.
That's really interesting what he just said, but also calling them seances is weird. Frater Parabolus, and we'll get to the fasting issue after. Maybe if he had been getting regular pay from the queen, he wouldn't have asked the angels to help him find treasure. Then again, who doesn't want to find buried treasure? So interesting, yes. Part of this is the nobility were extremely finery and parties and the appearance of wealth, but had no wealth. So for a lot of these years, for a certain period, things got better. But for a long time, the average peasants were apparently eating sawdust mixed with blood as a large part of their diet. That's terrifying to us, of course. So they didn't all have that much money. But one way Dee could get money was to get nobles to give him money to use magic to go look for treasure. So Dee wasn't looking for money from buried treasure. He was looking for the money him and Kelly would get because he had to pay Kelly. Again, roughly like the equivalent of $50K a year US in modern dollars. Last I checked, again, money's going so crazy these days, it's hard to tell. But, you know, a modest living, right? If your buddy offered you $50K a year to quit your day job and just do magic, you might take it, even though that's like less than half below the poverty line here now, which is 120. So crazy. But so it's hard to equate money back then. Plus, different things cost different amounts compared to today. Some things that would be expensive today would have been cheaper back then, that sort of thing. So yeah, the treasure thing's interesting. They mainly were interested in the money that, you know, Dee was able to borrow like $100 grand here or there to go buy some books. So he was good for it. People trusted him, you could say, because most of us couldn't be like, hey, but man, I need a quick 250 to buy these books. 250? Yeah, 250K, yeah. And to get these books, yeah, no problem. And you can go to Europe and get these books, come back. Like, he got money from people to do stuff like that. And that's sort of how the society worked back then for people like him. Yeah, we can get into Catholic priests and marriage and Aquinas another time.
In his own notes, one can find his painstaking cross-examination of each transcript, his meticulous authentication of each angel's identity, and his most vulnerable self-reflections and admissions of failure. Thus, the brain sickness theory is a disservice to a man that certainly deserves history's respect. Free from the shackles of angels and John Dee, Edward Kelly went on to indulge in the patronage of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, whom he had convinced that his alchemical experiments would soon produce gold. He lived lavishly, and in 1590 was even knighted Sir Edward Kelly of Imani and New Leuben. This high lifestyle, however, would not last long, as the destiny of Kelly would begin to play its cards. In May of 1591, Rudolph arrested and imprisoned Kelly, supposedly for killing an official named Jiri Hunkler in a duel. It's more likely, however, that Rudolph didn't want Kelly to escape from Prague before he actually produced gold. 4 years later, in the dungeons, Kelly pleaded with Rudolph, finally convincing him that he could fulfill his alchemic promise. He was restored.
So there's a lot more to this whole aspect of his life and this whole phase that, again, Dr. Burns and I covered in the live stream on Edward Kelly. Check it out.
To his former status, but under close watch over many months, he was unable to transmute the materials into gold. Tired of Kelly's sly games, Rudolph imprisoned him for the...
So he was making medicines for the emperor, and the emperor was improving, and it's believed that he was put in jail by people around the emperor who wanted the emperor to die, and put in jail so that he could know, and that's when the emperor's health declined again. So many other things could be going on. And this is where we really need to reach out to and include our friends in Prague, and include the Czech Republic scholars more in this conversation, which I'm looking forward to dipping my toes in the water again next year in 2027 for Dee's 500th birthday when we go to Prague for Enochian Con.
Final time in Geneveen Castle in the city of Most. In 1598, Kelly attempted to escape from the high tower. He fell, broke his legs, and was dragged back into the dungeon, dying from his injuries only a few days later.
No, a while later, a few years later.
If fate seemed cruel to Kelly, John Dee's was more quiet and solemn. At the request of Queen Elizabeth herself, Dee returned with his family to England in 1589. He arrived in London by train, the guard of 20 soldiers at his side. The Queen received him in Richmond and welcomed him back. Unfortunately, reality set in when he finally returned to his home in Mortlake, finding that his precious, beloved personal library had been vandalized without mercy, its interior torched, and more than a third of its priceless manuscripts stolen. He learned that many of his neighbors feared him to be a conjurer. Much had changed in England since he left. Now his study and practice of the occult was damningly scrutinized and no longer accepted by the public. John Dee's heart in shambles, he sought support from Elizabeth, who graciously appointed him a new position as warden of Christ Church in Manchester.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, he never had a position from her, and she didn't give him a position in the end. She bailed on him, and he went and got a position at a, sort of rinky-dink place, and then his family all died from the plague. It was a very sad ending.
But even there, he was despised and cheated by his fellows and subordinates. And soon after, his wife Jane and 2 of their daughters were taken by the Black Death epidemic. In 1603, Queen Elizabeth died and was immediately succeeded by James I. King James ordered the surveillance of all known sorcerers, of which they greatly harassed the 76-year-old John Dee, stripping him of his work positions. Finally, as a beaten old man, he sold whatever beloved books remained, one by one, in order to...
Yeah, so he's really playing this up and fudging some things to tell a horrific ending, which of course leads to people thinking all kinds of wrong things. But yeah, it wasn't a great ending. But the end, what endings are, really, right? How many of us get a fairy tale ending?
Feed himself and his daughter Catherine, who cared for him until his death at the age of 81 in Mortlake. Dee's gravestone was stolen, and thus his burial site and exact year of death remain unknown to this day. Reflecting upon the fate of John Dee, I'll note that he recorded a bone-chilling nightmare in 1583, the year he left England with Kelly. Saturday night, I dreamed that I was dead, and afterward my bowels were taken out. I walked and talked with divers, and among others, with the Lord Thresorer, who was come to my house to burn my books. Though the tale of Dr. John Dee and his search for divine knowledge is...
And so those dreams are very common during periods of initiation. I even had a period like that during lockdown, during their 3-year lockdown thing. Because I went into a dark place. I was doing this Hades work with the Eleusinian mysteries with Oberon Zell and Marilyn Motherbear and all these others, and intentionally going into the darkness of Mars. And you know, eventually I did come out of it. And yeah, lots happened. There was lots of death in my life the last 5 years, but dreams of being torn apart or were ripped apart were very common. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I'm going through it. And so Dee went through that. And this is just one of the most common phenomenon throughout the literature of people who do theurgic and initiatory magic.
Tragic. Today, the complexities of Dee are recognized, as are his political and scientific contributions to the world at large. But his most important work, at least considered by him, was the celestial language he and Kelly discovered. And what we know about Enochian today comes directly from his meticulous journalings. As an old man, fearful that his neighbors and townsfolk would burn his work as heretical, he hid several of his journals and a grimoire in the false bottom of a wooden chest, where they would remain hidden for over 50 years after his death.
And those were the Heptarchia Mystica papers, the planetary magic system, which again is featured on the thumbnail here. And that's the one course I have available is one I'm not one of those people who banged out every kind of magic course. I just did one really good introduction to Enochian heptarchial magic, which also serves as an introduction to grimoire magic if you've never done that. So I have that at enochiangrimoire.com. Check it out. We are going to do, for the first time ever in the 3 years, people, and many people have been enjoying that course, the first group ritual on Zoom that we can just all do the same ritual to get alone, but together. And we're going to have fun doing that. I was meant to do it last month, but so much is going on. These big events we're doing are harder than they look and take a lot of time. And so if you want to keep them going and support my work, attend EnochiaCon this November and join the Arcane Research Society today. Check out this song I sang and wrote about it.
Dee, won't you say a prayer for me? Time is running out and I wanna see the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. Edward Kelly, will you come and scry with me? Conjure spirits of the air and sea tonight, 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 tonight.
All right, we're back to finish up this first part of our big 5555 celebration day. Frata Parabola says, I still keep hoping that an unknown Dee manuscript will be found somewhere. We just found one, brother. I mean, not only did I find something that, well, scholars just didn't think mattered, and then bring it into the occult practitioner world, which is kind of like finding something because, you know, the people who needed it didn't have it, and now we do. But besides that, Dr. Deborah Harkness, who was a doctoral candidate student under my mentor, Dr. Nicholas Goodrich Clark, she discovered falsely labeled under geomancy that Dee manuscript that she wrote her doctoral dissertation on. You can get her book on Amazon. Check out Dr. Deborah Harkness. Then she went on to write the Discovery of Witches trilogy of books and big smash hit movie series, which my sister and mother made me watch a few times. It was painful. No, not really. It was fun. It was fun. It was such a chore to have to endure. No. All right. Let's do this.
His chest was auctioned off to a confectioner as a gift to his wife, who didn't discover the false bottom until 20 years later. Leaving the found journals at her desk for later investigation, her illiterate maid tore many of the pages to kindle the fireplace, until the wife caught her doing this and rescued what scraps remained. What we still have today is significant, largely thanks to the level of detail and copious amount of notes produced by John Dee. Unfortunately, that doesn't make up for the fact that parts of Dee's original manuscripts are now lost, as is the ability to fully interpret the meaning and validity of Enochian. Speaking of Enochian, Dee never actually called it that.
Oh, I'm glad he's bringing up the point I always bring up. But around determining the validity, I mean, if you think that there's no, it's the same way to determine the validity of this spirituality and this magical practice as any magical practice or religion. They're all in the same department of criteria for validity. So if they enrich the spiritual life, this is where the questions of ethics comes in. That's why in seminary I switched from Hebrew Bible studies to focusing on ethics, because I realized it was just a more important, a bigger deal. Because who cares if you have like good interpretations or secret knowledge found within texts or blah 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 blah. You could have all the good stuff you want in your arsenal, in your church, in your community, in your library. But if you don't know how to apply it, if you don't know what spirituality is and how it is of value in the world, then the rest doesn't really mean much.
He referred to it variously as Adamical, angelical, or celestial speech. Today, we call it Enochian due to the Book of Loagaeth allegedly descending from the mythological work copied by Enoch, in the same way that the books of the Torah are referred to as Mosaic, in reference to the biblical hero Moses. Much of Dee's Enochian knowledge remained hidden in unopened journals that were auctioned off to different households, until the late 1800s, when a group known as the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was formed. They made a serious effort to collect and include Dee's work as part of their curriculum, as Dee was a thought leader in Hermetic philosophy. However, as they only had access to several of his journals, the Golden Dawn were wholly unaware of the existence of the Book of Loagaeth.
Yeah, the GD was aware of all the manuscripts that everyone was aware of back then. Obviously not the one that Dr. Harkness found, but yeah, they have Darkia and all that stuff. They weren't just reading Casaubon. Duh.
This resulted in a divergent Enochian system of magic that resembles, but is ultimately separate from Dee's original.
It's just, yeah, it wasn't, they didn't change it because of a lack of information. They adapted it to this, Mathers adapted it with Westcott into the system they were creating. So the system of Hermetic spirituality and magic that they were creating. They were like, yeah, let's make this, let's change it a bit to fit, because they created this whole color system, which is amazing, but it didn't work with what Dee had for colors. So they had to change that stuff. And yeah, there's so much to be said on that. Unfortunately, I have said a lot on it, and I'll say a lot more. And we'll say a lot of it, a lot more at the conference.
And for the next 100 years, including Enochian's popularization by the famous Aleister Crowley, Dee's system was overlooked.
Shout out to our boy Crowley.
That is, until the early 2000s, when the internet rediscovered John Dee's original work. Today, students of the occult have put in monumental effort.
Well, I mean, that's what I first studied, was John Dee's original stuff through Jeffrey James, and then I mean, we've been studying the original work the whole time, my friend. Yeah, you're way off on that one.
To decipher and understand Enochian as Dee saw it, and perhaps overcome the barriers he never made it past. But certain questions may forever remain. Do you think the two Englishmen actually spoke to angels? Is Enochian really the world's most ancient language? And will the hidden ciphers of the Book of Loagaeth ever be decrypted? Let your theories be known in the comments below, and maybe we can solve these mysteries. As for now, thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell icon, and as always, friends, stay tuned for the next episode. I'm excited to check out his Abramelin video.
I'll watch the whole thing first and see what I think.
I'd like to give a massive shout out to those who pledged to my Patreon, and to my two Diamond Tier patrons, Ashes of Zayon and Capricorn Studios. Thank you guys so much for your contribution to the show.
He's going to show you why this has 1.6 million views. Because this is the best we've got online, perhaps, other than Sledge's videos. Yeah, all right. Yeah, rather spend so much time in the British Library reading and studying. Absolutely, like that's where he hung out. That's where he met Moina, more or less. Yeah, it does something. Frater Parabola says, I heard it was for draining pies, but I agree, draining or lining pie pans, but that could also not be true. Yeah, Dr. Burns thinks that's a little sus. I think she might be right. I don't know who DD this guy is. Return of the Dead. I mean, yeah, we got a moderator, Occultology. If anyone else wants to help me moderate, let me know. If I know you relatively and trust you, and you can be a moderator. And yeah, like and subscribe. We have more fun to be had if you guys are down and want to hang around. Become a channel member. Help us hit that 125 mark. We got 20 to go, and we get a new emoji. And obviously, check out the Arcane Research Society and see. We still have the 3 payment plan up for EnochiaCon. I just keep meaning to change it, but it's still there because I have to redo all this promotional material because of some changes. But I'll announce those in an email. We're adding a workshop by Ike Baker, so you'll be excited to hear what that is. And the titles from all the presenters will come out, and that's it's hard to get all of those from them. Getting it from them is hard. If you're watching a presenter, please send me the title at least. We need it. Yeah. So as far as fasting goes, yes. Occultology, yeah, they were allowed to eat. They have to avoid gluttony and coitus for 3 days. And then there's other prescriptions, which you can check out in my lecture as Frater RC at the 2024 EnochiaCon. So, yeah, they ate. There are several mentions of, in the diaries, they would break for lunch or supper. I mean, yes. Yeah, and that lines up with the Ashmole transcription that I found, so that's interesting. And so this is someone, I don't know who this is, Gurgops. Off topic, what do you think about M.M. Maline's tarot work and being initiated through art alone, since she claimed no affiliation, no physical initiation through any order? I mean, why would you need to be a part of an order to initiate someone into a art book or thing? Like, initiation means beginning. There's not a initiation, there's many initiations into anything you ever do in life. So, yeah. It sounds good to me. Every grimoire is a new initiation, especially if you connect with its servient spirit or it's the HGA of that text. They all seem to have different beings that you're required to get to know and work with. Nulhu, noob question. Was it actually an angel that told Dee and Kelly to share their wives? Well, it was something. It was a spiritual creature. So that's what they considered them to be. Polyamorial. Polyamorial. That's good. All right. So what do we have next? We're going to do something so much fun. So much fun. So much fun. We're going to do something so much fun.
This is Georgina Rose, part-time esoteric content creator and part-time Scarlet Woman, and welcome back to the Darling YouTube channel. Welcome back to another Occult 101 video. For those who are new, this is my series where I give little beginner bite-sized introductions to large esoteric topics to help you have a foundation.
I am playing her at 0.25 speed, just to be clear.
To springboard off into deeper research. And if you're new here, I'm a Thelemite occultist. In this video, we're going to be talking about Enochian, a system of angelic magic that originated from John Dee that can possibly mess up your mind forever. Which for me, that's exciting. Sometimes we want a little risk. Sometimes moon water isn't enough. Sometimes we want to summon some angels and possibly fuck ourselves up for life. Sounds fun to me. So that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to give a brief introduction on Enochian.
The girls got style.
Talk about kind of basic ritual stuff, give some misconceptions, some advice, and how to jump into this paradigm. So first,
which meme is that? 42. I actually forgot I had memes. I forgot I had memes. Here's a meme.
Let's get nuts. Harmonic magic is not a thing.
shit.
I don't know what you're talking about. I think she's adorable. Let's see if her advice matches her outfit.
First, let's start with the basics of what Enochian is. If you've heard the term Enochian, you may have heard it from the TV show Supernatural. You may have heard it if you're interested in like Thelema or Golden Dawn, or if you're interested in Grimtrad. It's one of those terms that a lot of people know the name of and associate with angels, but don't really know like what it works or how it's done or the complexity of it. It's one of those systems that when you look at it, it looks very complex. There's a lot of like equipment, like you've got the tables, you've got the scrying stuff, and it looks really intimidating and scary. At least for me. I remember when I was new and I heard about Enochian, I was like, staying away from that, not touching that. But of course, like most things, I'm not very good at keeping that up, so I touched Enochian. But basically, Enochian is one of those systems that looks really complex, but the rituals themselves are quite simple. But you need to know that complexity to do the simple ritual. It's a lot of just, like when you get into the actual ritual space, it's a lot of just talking. It's a lot less like moving parts like you would see in like spell work, but rather just a lot of talking. But you have to understand a lot to do that simple thing.
She has a point. The girl has a point. The lady has a point. That's a fair point. Now, maybe not so much talking with your physical mouth, but that is there too. There is talking and then there's non-talking. You could say that a lot of life is periods of talking and then non-talking. Like after I say goodbye to you all today, which will be very sad, then there will be non-talking. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to the magic.
It's one of those things, right? You gotta walk before you can run almost, except imagine if running was easier than walking, and then you've got Enochian. So Enochian began with this guy named John Dee. He was a philosopher, a mathematician, an astrologer, and he was the court astrologer of Queen Elizabeth because he predicted her rising to power.
Was he the court astrologer of Queen Elizabeth? 9.
And the previous queen obviously jailed him for that and was like, you're not taking my power from me. That's my power.
Well, my goal is to stay cool as a cucumber. It's, you know, it's a Jupiter day. I got my blue shirt on and orange tie and chilling in the Jupiter vibes, preparing for the Jupiter conjunction with Mercury this Saturday. Me and my crew are doing a Lunasa ceremony to invoke the harvest of Lu. And I have my, you know, theurgic statue of Lu that I've done the work with, written a song of Ballad of Lu with, recorded it. That's coming out. And yeah, I'm going to stay cool as a cucumber and just enjoy the show. You know, but if I do get wound up, that's what the memes are for.
Power, you're not taking my power. And then when Elizabeth got to power, she's like, you were right. Out of jail now. Now you're my astrologer. You're going to help me. And so he was obviously pretty high society.
But she didn't take him as the
astrologer. He was very well
astrologer.
informed. He was one of the most educated men of his time. And he ended up contacting these angels. And he worked with this scryer guy, Edward Kelly. Edward Kelly was a really good scryer, and he was also interested in what we call practical alchemy, or like doing things with like, you know what I mean? Like you picture,
also called
like
alchemy.
when we talk about alchemy, like in practice, we're talking a lot about like.
John Dee referred to spiritual alchemy in his Monas Hieroglyphica as archemy.
Internal alchemy, or like refining your inner self, but he did like the physical alchemy, like when you watch like Full Metal Alchemist, you see the alchemy labs, like that type of alchemy. So together they were a really good team. They spent every single day conjuring these angels and then scrying what they were saying, and they discovered all these amazing incantations, these aethers, these really cool things, and a whole cosmology emerged. They were not as concerned with like how to practically use this stuff, but rather were just kind of recording it in this scientific way. They wanted all the information. And one of the most notable parts of the Enochian system is what we call the Enochian language. Though the term Enochian language is a misnomer, it's actually angelic language. And recently people have started fixing that. The term Enoch means of Enoch, which the book of Enoch is an apocryphal text or heretical, depending on who you ask. But you know, heresy is fun.
She literally is like, this is her natural speaking voice. She literally said the word Enoch means of Enoch. So she meant Enochian. She's talking very fast. The TikTok thing. It's a TikTok thing. We're enjoying TikTok. Chill out. Stop getting upset. This is a fun video, and we're having a fun time.
Here, and we love some heresy.
Oh, be nice.
And so it was really influential.
See, I'm having such a good day. I'm on Georgina's side. You all be nice. We all can get along. Yeah, of course she's AI.
On early Christians, and then like in John Dee's time, the Catholic Church was like, that's some heresy, get that away, no, 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 no. And John Dee was like, I'm here for the heresy. But not really. He actually didn't read Enoch until the angels told him he could, and then it really influenced him. So the language itself is angelic. The language, there...
I never read Enoch. Like, it's so wild.
There's been some skepticism about it, and some people saying, oh, this can't be real, this guy was a fraud. But if you actually look at the angelic language, it doesn't really line up with any existing languages. Like the grammar structure is different. It's spoken from like your stomach almost, like it's really guttural. And that's...
How do you know what it sounded like? Have you heard Lon pronounce it? Olsand Forsk, Goho, Iad Balt, Lanchve. Like there's no gutturalness there. What are you talking about?
It's extremely unique to it. You don't see that with any other real existing language, which is part of why like people consider it genuine.
You don't see guttural languages? Ah, yeah, you do.
And all the Enochian practitioners definitely think it's genuine. So there's sort of two schools of practitioners, right?
No, we don't think it's genuine. We think it's a magical language. And for people who don't believe magic, that means it's just made up. And as is all religion, and everything that humans think and do is made up. And consciousness is just a delusion, and we're all drunk on it, and just deterministic automatons. That is a worldview that you're welcome to have.
There's what we call Dee Purism, which is doing exactly what John Dee did.
It means drawing from John Dee's original text, not doing what he did, but drawing from his original text, because we know very little about what he did.
Emulating exactly his system. And then there's what we call Neo-Enochiana. Most Enochian practitioners I've met fall into the camp of Neo-Enochiana. Neo-Enochiana is what comes from the Golden Dawn.
Because she's a Thelemite, and they do Neo-Enochian. The Golden Dawn created Enochian magic. They came up with their own version of Dee and Kelly's magic, called it Enochian, made up a new word for it, and then what came after was versions of that, therefore called Neo-Enochian. Now, Aaron Leach refers to the original Dee and Kelly magic as Enochian, and everything from Golden Dawn onward as Neo-Enochian. So he uses the same terms with different meanings. That's why it seemed there was a disconnect between he and I. And then we sorted it out famously on Facebook and in person, and hanging out at the beach down here by my house for all day in the sun and getting to know each other. So yeah, using the term in different ways. The one thing you can say, well, I'll let her continue. Have dinner. Yeah, go have dinner. Off to dinner. See you Friday, Parabolas. Thanks to those who are sticking around for my celebration stream, doing what I love most, which is talking Enochian. Controversy. Yeah, her controversy was ironic as fuck. Yeah, I gotta roll.
I've talked a little bit about the Golden Dawn. They were an Hermetic order, and they're responsible for a lot of what became modern occultism. And when they sort of turned Enochian into a system, they didn't think it was a complete system because they didn't have all the information that we have now. So they made a system.
And that's just the common lie repeated over and over that's been debunked a million times.
Where it was much more complete. They added some things. One of the big differences is how some of the tables look and some of the correspondence is used. And it also got a more Golden Dawn flavor. When they were making this system, you've got to give them some credit. Okay, they didn't have all the information we have. They were working out of mostly diaries.
False.
And later on, we found more stuff that John Dee wrote and more information that he put out. So now people can be Dee purist. At the time, it wasn't really possible.
Yeah, it was like, so there's three systems of Enochian magic. There's the Heptarchia, then the Watchtower. The Heptarchia, you sort of make contact with the spirits, successively, and then there's an actual initiation to begin the Watchtower working, and then There's the Aethers, which are sort of initiatic in themselves, but not really. But also you could do them that way as they did in the Golden Dawn, then train Crowley how to do that. So they drew from Dee's writings on the Aethers, the Heptarchia, and the Watchtowers, and created 3 lesson segments, one on each. The only ones that survive in Golden Dawn manuscripts is one of them. That's what the rest were destroyed because most Golden Dawn stuff was burned. And but we know it existed because Crowley preserved it, and it's also recorded in all of their diaries.
So Neo-Enochiana kind of had to be what it is. However, there aren't many major differences, and in practice, you can...
It's fact, so it should be drilled into us, you know?
Huge difference, right? If you use one system, it's not going to screw you over. If you're a Thelemite or an Hermeticist, I would really suggest using Neo-Enochiana because it's going to be more familiar with what you know, and the writers are going to be people like Crowley or Mathers, who you're probably going to be familiar with.
But it's much more complicated than the Dee purist approach, which I teach in traditional Enochian Magick. Go to EnochianGrimoire.com to enroll in my curriculum. You don't just get the 10-day intro course to your first operation, you get everything that comes after, all the work and all the research and all the classes I do, you get into the curriculum indefinitely.
And like their style. Dee purism is something that I see more like Christian mystics gravitate towards and Christian occultists, because John Dee himself was very Christian.
Most Dee purists are in fact Thelemites or pagans. Fun fact. Maria Montgomery would now count as a Roman Catholic Dee purist, but she gave up practicing to be a Roman Catholic. So she was Thelemite, but now she's a Roman Catholic hardcore and gave up practicing. She's doing a presentation and is one of the world's experts on Enochian and runs the Enochian Studies of John Dee Facebook group that is the only real one. That's the only one that matters. So, well, not really. That's over. It's the top in the top 5. So most are actually pagans or Thelemites doing that. Yeah, I'm one of the few Christians promoting the Christian practice, but again, it works for paganism too because it's hermetic.
It was like kind of the historic good boy occultist. Like, you know how people say like Aleister Crowley is the bad boy of occultism, Jack Parsons is the Che Guevara of occultism, John Dee is the good boy. He's the good boy, very good boy. And so... Yeah,
the wife swapping, Philosopher's Stone smoking good boy.
If you like his system, you're probably going to be someone along the lines with Grimtrad. And on his system...
Yeah, well... You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Just came from Dee. However, if you look at the Enochian system, there are influences from a lot of earlier traditions, especially the Jewish Merkaba mystic system. If you guys want me to make a whole video on Merkaba, I can. It's a type of Jewish mysticism. It's not the same as Kabbalah, though obviously Kabbalah does have influence on Dee because Dee was a Christian occultist. Things like Solomonic magic as well, you see some influences. Some of the tables look pretty similar to...
Glossing Dee's hermetic side is sad because it's so helpful to string that together for people so they can see the through line that makes it all make sense. Like, why are these different people studying and practicing similar things across such different time periods and geographies? Well, there's through lines, and naming them is really helpful, I think, for us to get the big picture.
Some of the stuff you see in the Solomonic grimoires. Also, there's a grimoire called Artabel that has a lot of parallels to what John Dee was saying as well, and you can tell that it was clearly an influence on his work. Enochian, while there is a lot that's added new, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and there's clear influences on it from earlier systems. In terms of how Enochian influenced what came after it, Enochian is huge in the Golden Dawn tradition. It was taught to their inner...
Yeah, just consider the fact that the Enochian ring, the Pele ring, is called the Ring of Solomon. This is my Ring of Solomon. I don't do the other Solomonic magic. Like, this is the Solomonic magic that I focus on. I do sham work and I do dabble in some other grimoires. I love the Arbitel. But again, as far as my approach to Solomonic magic, it's Enochian.
Order students, or their highest up students, as well as you see it in Thelema, especially with Crowley surfing the Aethers through the vision and the voice, which Lon Milo Excerpt, I believe, called the Talmud of Thelema. I think he was the one who said it. It may have been Jason
That's
Wu.
brilliant.
But someone said Vision in the Voice is a Talmud of Thelema. And Vision in the Voice is so important, especially if you're like me and you're really interested in the Babylon concept. Enochian is really important to understand. Traditions like Alexandrian Wicca as well incorporate Enochian. If you've ever done the Wiccan Calling of the Watchtowers, you've dabbled in a little bit of Enochian without knowing it. Enochian was super influential on what came after it. The period between the Golden Dawn and John Dee's life are a little bit blank because after John Dee's death, it kind of became a little obscure. It wasn't super heavily used, and it sort of had its renaissance with the rise of the Golden Dawn.
Justin Sledge just said to me, listen to them, commenters of the night, what music they make. Talking about if he becomes a vampire because he got bit by a bat. Name drop. Psh.
In terms of misconceptions, something that comes up a lot is that Enochian is extremely dangerous. And it partially is. Basically what's dangerous about it is, you know how if you look at these Eastern traditions, you advance really slowly through them. You reach enlightenment and the annihilation of the self slowly and progressively. Enochian says, no, we're going to do this fast and we're going to do this now, right now. And so it really jumps you ahead and pushes you into things before you may be ready for it. Enochian is something that you need to be very ready for.
That you are so not, oh God. Balls.
When you're new, but Enochian is something you should spend a lot of time studying. Study both of the approaches, study the material, and make sure you know what you're doing. Because once again, as I said at the beginning, that complexity...
She does the Thelemic thing, of conflating Golden Dawn and Thelemic Enochian. Right, so it's all just Neo-Enochian. Oh, don't pay attention to the fact that the history of the Golden Dawn. I'm not going to get into that too much today. Don't worry, unless you want to.
It's really important to do the simple thing. Another would be about all the stuff. So Enochian has a lot of stuff. There's a very complex setup and it's very strict.
It's got a lot of stuff.
However, you can save money on that. While it's one of those where you can't just go, well, I don't want to use any of it unless you're sort of, I guess, taking like the chaos magic approach. With Enochian, I don't really think a chaos magic approach is really that smart. You can DIY a lot of it. There's a big thing where there's the ring. You can do that with paper. That's what I did. I made a little paper ring and then I put a little like stamp on the front and then drew the symbolism on it. You can make your own tables and banners with papers. You can just take you can just buy like a cheap hanging
If you can't do it with paper, gold ain't gonna help you.
Banner and just write all over it. You can make it work. While it may not be as pretty as the setups are, I really suggest doing this at first because if you realize you try Enochian and realize it's not for you, you don't want to have spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on equipment. So make sure
And that's exactly what I walk you through in my 10-day course, which leads into then other lessons and studies and all my Enochian work. Go to enochiangrimoire.com and join the team. We're going to do a live operation over Zoom, which I've done with my students many times. It's what led us into doing cyber magic. They're like, let's try a ritual one time in the early years. I was like, fine, one time. But then I realized why it worked so well, because everyone was shocked and wanted to do it all the time. I was like, oh, it works so well because we're actually just all doing the rituals on our own, of course, and just happened to be, I used to time up rituals with friends back in the 90s who were other countries or other cities. And it was really amazing because we'd connect to each other and then do it. And it was really powerful. It felt like you were doing it with someone else. So having a Zoom on, it's cyber magic and it helps and it works. I kind of wish it didn't, but such is life.
You do it resourcefully and you think fiscally responsibly about this. Another B, that getting really deep into Enochian is going to fix your material life. This is one of those paradigms that are a lot less materially focused. While some people have used the Enochian system for practical occultism or to get things they want, I know there's a book
like wrecking the Spanish Armada twice with Befefes. I mean, Enochian's really powerful. They're sublunar spirits. They're all around Malkuth, right? They're so good at affecting material reality. Scott Stenwick's presentation, this Enochiacon, it's a workshop. He's doing a presentation and a workshop. The workshop, which is limited seating and in person and not filmed, recorded, nor streamed, it's on using the cacodemons for wealth in the transformation of germs. That's not I can't say much about, but crazy. He thinks that everyone can just use that and become millionaires. So I wasn't going to say no. Let's give it a shot and see what happens. I mean, if everyone who attends becomes millionaires who attends that workshop, please support the Arcane Research Society and help underwrite future events so I don't have to risk bankruptcy every year. Thank you. And super chats and memberships help as well. Thank you.
On like success magic that really pulls from Enochian really heavily. This isn't exactly designed for that, and this is more about the annihilation of the ego and this sort of broader enlightenment ascendance concept. So
see, that's an interpretation that comes out of focusing on the vision and the voice, because the vision and voice is a text where Crowley takes the parts of the earth which go around the earth, around Malkut, our planet in particular, because Malkut is all of creation, and then the rest are the higher faces of God. And the paths are our experience of the connections between them through creation. And so the aethers, the parts of the earth, are around the earth. They're the governing parts of the earth. There's a part of the earth for Canada and America. There's one for North Israel and South Israel, if you know what I mean. Like, you know, there's parts of the earth with angels and spirits and sigils that we use to enter them or interact with them. Crowley took that and used the Golden Dawn method of traveling in the spirit vision through the aethers. And rather than seeing them as going from Malkut to Yesod, he saw them as going up to Kether, up to Lil. And some people would say you'd start at Lil if you're following the Hechelot practice or method of going from top to bottom, descending through the palaces as they do in Jewish mysticism. Because Dee was an expert on Kabbalah and wrote a book on it, though we've lost it for now. That might have been the case if he were to practice it the way Mathers wrote the lesson on traveling through the aethers. Crowley demonstrated that in Vision and the Voice to a remarkable extent. Whatever you think of his methodology, with him and Victor Neuberg in the desert, I mean, sodomy was a part of the initiatory methodology they used, as along with peyote and many other things. If you look at Vision the Voice as the defining act in Enochian Magick, then you would have the interpretation she has of it being this elevating, primarily vertical theurgic practice or system, when it just simply isn't, especially if you look at the Heptarchia, the Watchtower spirits and what they do, the cacodemons, oh my God. And then the angel of the parts of the earth are for governing and controlling political results and magic to affect rulers and kings and lords. And that's what that's all about. So it's very mundane. And this general interpretation that it's, you know, all vision in the voicey, you know, peyote fueled anal initiations is something that is just one piece of the pie. It's a piece of the pie. We're very proud of it, but it's just a piece of the pie.
If you're looking into Enochian, there's going to be a lot more of that and a lot less of like how to get the girl you want or the job you want, though you can do it in that way.
Hide the planet! Hide the planet!
Darker LHP or demonic practices, angels are sort of like the security guards of the spiritual world. They will mess you up if you cross them. You need to be very careful. This system is mind-bending. Another would be that it immediately drives you crazy, because there are quite a few occultists who have sort of gone in.
Well, also it's like entering into the domain. So let's say you do something stupid, right? Say you look for the cacodemons of the Watchtowers that do disease, and you start traveling to encounter them or conjuring them to learn about them, right? Maybe you're a doctor and you think they actually could teach you something about cancer. But in general, I'd consider that highly risky behavior.
Insane because of the Enochian system. Occultists going insane happens now and again, more than we would like. But it's one of those where you really, really need to stay grounded.
That's not because the magic's doing it to the people. It's because unstable people are doing magic.
Because you're doing so many things on higher planes, higher kind of modes of thought, that grounding is so important. Doing your shadow work is so important, and doing sort of reality checks is really important, because this is something that can really mess you up in a lot of ways and has done that to a lot of occultists. John Dee and Kelly didn't really have normal jobs, so they
See, I gotta say, occultology, that you're speaking like someone who actually has worked with these things and experienced them, because they can be sort of harsh, but it's not in the way a lot of people think, I think.
had all the time in the world to do this stuff. For the average person, we can't do hours and hours of rituals a day. So if we do these systems, we need to remember our real life responsibilities and our real life needs.
You can't do 2 hours of rituals a day? Though, to be fair, when I do Enochian ritual with other people, other adepts or students, and the Zoom's on. We're doing it together. I mean, even if you add in the penitential psalms, slightly over an hour, slightly. If you have a setup where you're doing Scryer and Scribe and Magus and Scribe, then you might be lucky enough to be able to have an extended dialogue. But usually you're just having rapid communications that are very profound, often, and overwhelming, that sees you and your entire consciousness and body, and you get the job done, especially if you're trying to get them to minister to you or even transform you a bit, maybe.
And all the things outside of the esoteric that matter. My advice, if you want to get into this, is to read a lot of sources. I'll have a list of books linked in the description, not linked, but I put a list in every video of like recommended reading. So make sure you're doing your reading, make sure you're doing your due diligence, resource from a variety of sources, and just try your best to emulate these really big setups in what you can do. Just be careful about it and take it slow. This isn't something like sigils where you can just watch this video.
It's good advice. I think
you're going to need
this
to
is probably one of her better
research and a lot
videos.
of work to make sure you're ready and to make sure that you're there. If you're questioning whether or not you're ready, I would give it a little bit more time and do a little bit more research and a little bit more digging and take it slow. Just because it's a popular system doesn't mean it's necessarily right for you in this moment. So consider that seriously and know what you're doing and be realistic.
See, that was excellent advice. Georgina Rose, Darling, just gave some absolutely golden advice to all of you.
Stick with your current status and skill. And so I've been Georgina Rose. You've been watching Darling. You can support me on Patreon, where I make full exclusive videos every month. I do ritual guides where I can write up little rituals. They're all themed. It's really fun. And I run a Discord. I also host the Esoteric Commentary podcast, Occultism with a Side of Salt, where I talk about issues in our community and give a commentary approach rather than a teaching approach. And that's on Spotify,
AKA
YouTube,
cancel
and also
people in our community who she doesn't like till she got canceled.
If you want to support me and you can't join Patreon, I have direct donations through Ko-Fi, and you can book a tarot reading or palm reading with me.
That's just
so have a lovely day wherever you are, and your holy guardian angel will meet you in 93 days, so you don't need to bother with Enochian.
Well,
my horn can pierce the sky.
That was fun. I hope you enjoyed a little return to the great and mighty Darling, Georgina Rose, spreading the good word of Enochian Magick and Neo-Enochian and Dee Purism across the land. Thank you, Georgina, for your service to the great work, and congrats on the new book on planetary magic. Go check out Georgina Rose's Planetary Magic book. Oh, I should have made an affiliate link to go in the below. Would you buy it? I don't know. All right. Well, if you can become a channel member, send a super chat, support the show, I'd really appreciate it. And then we'll move on to the final third triptych of the night. This one more dive into the realm of Enochian magic as it is being viewed and distorted through the machinations of the uninitiated and AI. So, super chat, become a channel member. Thank you. Like and subscribe. And
money, please. My money.
So silly. All right, here we go. The ultimate introduction to Enochian magic and the angelic language.
Magic is as mysterious as math.
Are you ready for, like, we're gonna, like, it'll be like the best introduction ever.
Mathematics, as empirical as poetry, as uncertain as golf, and as dependent on the personal equations of love. Aleister Crowley. I am not a Thelemite, and Aleister Crowley engaged in numerous activities that I would consider non-ideal, but he was an interesting combination of brilliant and funny. When he wasn't writing poetry on his animalistic licentious desires, he was busy talking to the gods and goddesses of Egypt and writing profound little gems, like the quotation we're looking at right now. Evidently, Lon Milo thought this quote was quite the keeper also.
Thank you very
for
much
he
for the donation,
employed it
Val. You don't have to do that.
springboard
Thank you.
seekers into his beautiful
Guru
book,
Eyes, yeah.
Enochian Vision
I think he's
Magic,
AI.
a practical guide to the
I
magic
know
of
his
Dr.
website
John Dee
and courses
and
are
Edward
AI,
Kelly.
all AI.
In today's video, I am presenting a thoroughly informative yet emotionally stimulating ultimate introduction to Enochian Magic, the angelic language that Dr. John Dee and Edward Kelly discovered through a series of scrying experiments in the 16th century. Enochian Vision.
We're going to be looking a lot now at one of the most popular videos on Enochian Magic in the top 10 online. And it's going to be problematic and therefore a lot of fun. But if you want to learn what Enochian Magic's actually about, you can do that this November online or in person in Austin, Texas at EnochiaCon, the 3rd annual Dee and Kelly conference. That's Vancouver's own, the great Jesse Waldman on guitar, recorded live in Red Light Studios in East Vancouver. And I'll be back there soon with Jesse to record upright bass on the final version of it that you'll hear on the next promo video as soon as our presenters get all their titles in. So that's coming very soon. Then we will add a couple more verses, or just a verse more, maybe about Liza. I've got some drafts. Put that on a double-sided vinyl with the new song for next year, The Ballad of Dee and Kelly, and make 200 of those. Sell them for like $20 each for whoever wants a collector's vinyl that will have songs that aren't digitally available at all. You have to get a record player to hear them, and that'll be fun. Why not? We have the power. We have the technology. We can do it. It's true. Also, it's only 6:45. Let's do it.
Enochian Magic by Lon Milo is a comprehensive blueprint for understanding and practicing Enochian Magic. so we are using it as a quote-unquote textbook for today's video. This is the ultimate introduction to Enochian Magick and the language of angels. First off, this form of magic, this level of magic, is for grounded people who take a sane approach to the occult. Your physical eyes see the physical world. Your third eye sees the spiritual world. That being said,
yeah, Gurgops, you're saying that this guy, his info checks out. It's the problem is the sources that he's getting it from. So it checks out with those sources like LTC and other stuff. But when he applies it to things like Golden Dawn, he ends up being out to lunch. I don't know how he is with Enochian. I've not watched his Enochian stuff. Ever since I mean, we covered some of his stuff, and then I found out, yeah, he's using a Kajabi AI course generator for everything. I was just like, oh, no point really critiquing it anymore because, you know, I don't need to critique AI material that's used from Liam Thomas Christopher PDFs mixed with a few other people, right? Just feed that into Kajabi's AI course generator and bang out a course. But I've never covered his Enochian one, really. I don't think so. We're gonna do that. Yeah, he's pumped in Lon's book. So yeah, we'll see.
Said, if you're seeing demons walking down the street, then you're doing it wrong. You are a tree. To grow tall, you must also dig deep. The higher your branches, the lower your roots must go, or your tree will fall. So let's establish our sanity before we go any further. Angels. What are angels? Angels are angles of light, intelligent angles of light, which reveal themselves to people often.
Oh, I see what he did there. Angel looks like the word angle. And so, angel comes from the German word Engel. Jede Engel ist schrecklich. Wer, wenn ich schrei, hört mich in die angelische Ordnungen. Jede Engel ist schrecklich. Who, if I cried out, would hear me in the angelic hierarchies? Every angel is terrifying. Rilke. So angle, it's an angle of light. No, it's a messenger. It's a messenger, dumbass. Jesus.
The archetypical forms that the human in question is most comfortable seeing. A person coming from a Western Christian background may see this. A meticulous tech wizard who views the world in code may see this. Those with a more Eastern mentality may see this. All of these archetypes are subjective. They are the human relative interpretations of an absolute reality. Subjective interpretations, however, are not wrong. You will likely experience unseen forces through a variety of subjective lenses. That's good.
See, that's a category error. Subjective interpretations are not wrong. He's applying subjective to a category that it's not determined by. So he, little failure of logos there.
We as humans must break these concepts down in our own minds to understand them, and then apply them on the physical plane of existence. But keep this in mind also, due to the nature of your humanity, something as simple as what you had for dinner last night may alter the subjective lens that you are looking through.
Oh yeah, so KS Moon says, I had a UP, unverified personal gnosis. I was told the same thing. They're angles, but they're because they're folds in space. Yeah, so like obviously there I'm making fun of the angles word and angel. They're angles of light. Yeah, that's just having fun. When I say that's just having fun, that actually is just having fun. You can experience them that way. You could absolutely experience them that way. You can experience things any which way. And that's the point against what he was making.
Angels have revealed themselves to me
welcome,
in
Krista.
many forms
Shiloh.
and in many shapes and
Bist du
sizes.
Deutsch?
I am an open person, so I flow with many of the things that come my way. I speak with winged creatures, I spiral around pillars made of brilliant light, and I vibrate into vivid, vibrant triangles. I stay sane by maintaining the understanding that all of my subjective experiences are merely projections of an underlying absolute reality. And
Oh, relax, it's only magic.
referring to the all, the ineffable pure source of everything that is woven into everything. The absolute is behind all subjective experiences, but the all is ineffable, meaning too great or extreme to be expressed
That's
or
very well
described
said, very
in
true.
words. So your highest
sounds
and
like something
truest
Lon would say.
encounters cannot be verbalized. Many of you know exactly what I'm talking about. When you encounter absolute realities, it is simply ineffable. Ineffable, what a great word, cannot be
Oh no, this is Corey Feldman's AI avatar.
effed. A more objective description of an angel is a vibrating triangle transmitting intelligence. And guess what? This vibrating triangle that is transmitting intelligence is in you. It's a channel within yourself that you are evoking and communicating with. When you perform a ritual, you are the only person who sees the shapes you are drawing.
When you perform a ritual, you are the shapes that you're drawing. When you perform a ritual, I can't even do it. I can't do it.
In the angles of light
How does
within
he do
you
that?
that you are communicating with. Ceremonial magic is much more Jungian psychology than it is mystical. And if this message
He just said that ceremonial magic has more to do with Jung's theory of archetypes and maybe daimones, if you take the Red Book into account, than it does have, which is what mysticism is, or magic, the working with spirits. He just said that. He actually just said that. Yeah, he should stick to paraphrasing Lon.
resonates with you, touching the tip of your wand to the like button will send that resonance right back to me. You can also subscribe. Whoa, if one video resonates, I wonder what hundreds more like it will do. To get a firm grip on a sane approach to what we call magic before we dive into the angelic details of the magic we call Enochian, let's see what Lon Milo Excerpt has to say in an excerpt from the prologue of his book, Enochian Vision Magic. Begin quote. I'm a magician. I practice the art of ceremonial magic. I adore and invoke the essence of highest deity and hold congress with divine angels. I also evoke and command spirits and demons. Ceremonial magic is the path I have chosen to give expression to the spiritual yearnings I believe are inherent in every human being. It is my Tao, my way, my religion, my philosophy, my psychology. But ceremonial magic isn't my life. I already have a life, thank you, but I use magic to help make my life magic. I have closets and chests full of bizarre and colorful robes and crowns and wands and daggers and chalices and swords and lances and thuribles and banners and veils and rings and incense and candles and oils and tablets and talismans and mirrors and crystals.
If you have one bucket that holds 2 gallons and another bucket that holds 5 gallons, how many buckets do you have?
2?
Thank you.
Lord, I wonder what's got the matter. I'm trying.
Highlights out of most of my neighbors. I use these magical tools. I study these books in order to perform the rites of ceremonial magic. These things are not my life, but I use them to make my life magic. On the surface, one might think it reasonable and fair to ask, why are you a magician? Why do you believe in this stuff? Why do you do these crazy things? It might surprise you to know I don't have a proper answer to these questions. It is impossible for me to adequately explain or justify why I celebrate my spiritual life through the vehicle of magic. For the same reasons, it is impossible for any artist to properly explain why he or she has taken up the brush or the chisel or the violin or ballet slippers. If reasonableness were the sole criterion for the existence of art, there would be no music, no dance, no magic. Make no mistake about it, magic is an art form, and every true magician is an artist. Just like the musician and dancer, the magician must practice, create, and perform. Just like the painter or sculptor, he or she must be armed with the proper tools, skills, knowledge, and most of all, inspiration. But what about people who've never learned to play a musical instrument, never learned to dance or paint or sculpt, yet who find themselves spiritually touched by listening to music, watching ballet, and visiting galleries? Are they not artists too? In a very important way, I believe they are. As quantum physicists tell us, both the observer and that which is observed are changed by the act of observation itself. By appreciating the artist's handiwork, we are fundamentally affecting the reality and life of that creation. More importantly, when we expose ourselves to the artist's creation, we enjoy the passive luxury of allowing our consciousness to be altered, elevated, and enriched in unique and personal ways the artist might never have imagined. The art of ceremonial magic, however, is a little different. There is no painted canvas to display, no audience to applaud. Regardless of how altruistic the magician's motives may be, magic is spiritual performance art that must ultimately be executed and appreciated by the magician alone. He or she is at once the teacher, the student, the medium, the conductor, the performer, the venue, the audience, and the critic. The magician touches the broader audience of humanity only by affecting changes in the magician. And success can be weighed only in the silent holy of holies in his or her own soul.
So this is all Lon.
Now that we're grounded, this is how the angelic language was discovered. In 1582, John Dee and Edward Kelly embarked on a series of mystical experiments to contact divine beings. Dee, a respected scholar with interests that spanned from mathematics to astrology, sought a deeper understanding of the divine and the workings of the universe. Together with Edward Kelly, a scryer with clairvoyant abilities, began a series of angelic conversations. These conversations were facilitated through a crystal ball.
I love the fact that he's vague enough to be really accurate. That's actually quite well done, sir. Well done.
And a black obsidian mirror, in which Kelly would see visions and communicate with angels. The angels revealed a complex and systematic language to Dee and Kelly. This was the language used by the angels. This language comprised of its own alphabet, syntax, and grammar. The angelic language is distinctive and complex. It consists of 21 letters and is written from right to left. This system also includes magical tablets, each corresponding to a specific element, such as earth, air, fire, and water. These tablets contain grids of letters. The use of these tablets, alongside the angelic calls or keys, which are special incantations, forms the basis of this magic that we now call Enochian. Following Dee and Kelly, Enochian magic largely faded into obscurity until it experienced a revival.
I mean, you know, Lon got hit hard by COVID. I don't want to say more than that, but I think a lot of you know that. A lot of his really good work was being done teaching tarot in China. And during COVID, he couldn't do that. And so they had to move houses. Again, I don't want to say too much. But at this point, to compete with someone like this, who's using Lon's book to fuel AI Kajabi courses and sell them for, you know, $1,000 Canadian for the single course, which is just Lon's book and some other books pumped through Kajabi's AI. I mean, maybe Lon should pump his books through a Kajabi AI and compete with it. I don't know what the solution is. That's why I do in-person events, and you can come check out my in-person events this November in Austin. I'm going to be there for Halloween weekend. I'm going to the Ren Fair. If anyone wants to go to Texas Ren Fair that weekend, I'll be there, and we're going to have a great time.
The Arcane Research Society returns to bring esoteric scholarship and practice in 2026 with 2 major events held in Austin, Texas. Register for an annual membership and attend online or in person all of our annual events, including June 13th, our spring workshop, and November 6th through 8th, EnochiaCon, our full esotericism conference. The ARS Spring Workshop features 3 workshops led by Jason Louv, Craig Williams, and Frater RC. Spend a whole day in downtown Austin, Texas, enjoying these hands-on deep dives with experts in their fields. Register today for all live events included with ARS annual membership, Spring Workshop, and EnochiaCon, which features too many amazing presenters to name. Sign up today at arcaneresearchsociety.com.
All right, sign up today for Arcane Research Society. Sign up. I think you have to, I don't know how you do that voice. Yeah, I don't know how you do it. It's pretty cool. Pretty sexy.
Among occult circles in the 19th and 20th centuries. I would like to note that John Dee and Edward Kelly did not name their system of angel magic Enochian Magick. This title was coined later by others who studied and practiced their work. Dee and Kelly referred to their practices as angelic conversations or actions with spirits. The term Enochian
is where my entire podcast catalog gets downloaded all at once, and you know what's happening there, right?
Is derived from the biblical figure Enoch, a patriarchal figure with legendary status as a man who walked with God and was taken up to heaven. However, it was only in later centuries, particularly in the 19th and 20th centuries, when occultists and scholars studying Dee and Kelly's diaries and records began to refer to their system as Enochian Magick. It was during the resurgence of interest in occult and mystical practices, especially within groups like the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, that the term...
What was the restoration of breach, Gurgops? The restoration of the breach? Which breach? Sorry. I'm engaging in high magic.
Enochian Magick.
He's actually showing the trademarked logo.
Became widely used to describe Dee and Kelly's system.
I like that.
This period saw a re-evaluation and revival of their work, with practitioners and scholars attributing the name Enochian to emphasize its connection to the ancient patriarch Enoch and the mystical traditions associated with him. Before we dive even further, let us briefly examine Enoch and his ascent to the Archangel Metatron.
Yeah, there it is. It's kind of a Valley Girl meets Matthew McConaughey spelling error. It's like, so I would say if you could really enter into the mysteries, it wouldn't just be mystical, it would also be like magical and mystical. It would be mystical and magical, because that it's the mysteries, you know, dude.
Metatron, an archangel many of you may already be
How'd I do?
Scale
of 1 to 10. Give me a rating.
Metatron, not Megatron. The transformation of Enoch into Metatron is a fascinating narrative woven through various mystical texts and traditions, particularly within Jewish mysticism. Enoch is a biblical figure, appearing briefly in the book of Genesis as a great-grandfather of Noah, renowned for his piety and for being one of the few characters who, according to the text, did not die but was taken by God. And Metatron is a figure in Jewish mystical texts. notably the Talmud and Kabbalistic writings, known as a
Megatron.
powerful archangel and a scribe of God. In my guided LBRP video, we evoke Metatron in addition to the 4 elemental archangels. Metatron is the archangel of Kether, spirit, our higher awareness. So including this force has tremendous amplification power. In Genesis 5, verse 24, it's stated that Enoch walked with God. Then he was no more, because God took him away. This passage has led to much speculation and interpretation over the years. The Book of Enoch, this apocryphal text, not included in the canonical Hebrew Bible, but part
cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks
on Enoch's story. It portrays him as a man who is taken to heaven and given insights into the workings of the universe, both physical and divine. In Jewish mysticism, particularly in the Merkaba and the later Kabbalistic traditions, there is a narrative that Enoch was transformed into the archangel Metatron. This is not explicitly stated in canonical scriptures, but is a theme developed in mystical texts. Metatron is often depicted as a celestial scribe, recording the deeds of humanity. He is also sometimes referred to as the Lesser Yod-Vavhe, a term indicating his high status in the divine hierarchy, but still subordinate to God. The symbolism and significance of the transformation lies in the concept of bridging the divine and the human. Enoch's transformation is symbolic of the potential for human beings to attain a high spiritual status. His divine. As Metatron, Enoch becomes a bridge between the divine and the earthly realms. He embodies the idea that divine wisdom and understanding can be attained by humans. Enoch spoke angelic. He walked with God and ascended into an archangel. He was one of the first notable figures to successfully commune with angels, but this is not Enoch's language. This is the language of the angels. Enochian Magick is often considered the most true-to-source way of communicating with angels, and many of the ceremonies that came out of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn are meant to prepare a person for Enochian Magick. Communicating
Mochak, Manix, Vanachek, Dano. What's wrong? I never realized what a beautiful young woman you've become.
is the zenith of angel magic. We as humans like to put things in boxes, and then we like to stamp labels on those boxes. This has its upsides and downsides. Putting an esoteric concept into a box and then labeling the box allows us to better understand said concept. This is all well and good as long as we are aware of the fact that we can't actually put divinity in a box. If you are on this journey, you will likely assemble a multitude of boxes. If you're doing it right, assembling a multitude of boxes will eventually lead you to connecting those boxes. Once you have connected those boxes, you will then feel secure to take the next steps and open them. Enochian Magick is opening the boxes. It's a level you will surely ascend to with practice, but it's an undertaking I do not recommend trying until you have gone through a long list of fundamental energy balancing practices. Interesting and mildly funny though, once you open these boxes, you will then go on to assembling new ones, higher ones, until you have mastered the higher ones.
So, famously in the Golden Dawn, they didn't have the Abscissimus grade. They didn't call it that, at least. It was just 10 equals 1. It was Crowley who created that highest of boxes.
And opened them just like you have done with the boxes on the lower planes of your understanding. Send your right brain out into the universe to download this information. Use your left brain to further understand this information. Use your body to apply this information, and then start again. Fall in love with the journey, for you will always be on it. Members of the Golden Dawn, including notable figures such as Samuel Liddell McGregor Mathers, William Wynne Westcott, and Aleister Crowley, were deeply invested in the works of Dee and Kelly. Through their writings, teachings, and practices, they significantly contributed to the revival of interest in Dee and Kelly's.
Well, you know, that's actually what's interesting. For all that Crowley wrote an original Enochian spells, invocations that we use to this day that are really cool and show you the actual method in which the Golden Dawn pronounced Enochian magic as opposed to the way that Rigardi understood it. Despite Crowley then producing Vision of the Voice and doing all this work in Enochiana and creating the Enochian altar that he created, all this work, he actually didn't really study Dee and Kelly much. He mostly studied the Golden Dawn Enochian that he was trained in. Even though he wasn't of grade level really for it yet. So that's quite interesting. And he never really, it would have been so interesting if Crowley had, like, you know, instead of whoring around, rich boying around Europe, had spent time in the stacks in the library in London like Mathers had and explored it on his own. Oh, that would have been so interesting. But he did still a lot. He brought Babylon from Enochiana and Choronzon into Choronzon. And yeah, he did a lot
work and helped frame it.
I always think
within
outside
the broader
boxes and
context
bring
of
boxes
Western
together.
Esoteric tradition.
So you got to balance them with
Liddell
the
McGregor
Sephira.
Mathers was a pivotal figure in the revival of occultism in the late 19th century. He was a co-founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Mathers and other members of the Golden Dawn incorporated Enochian magic into their ceremonial practices. Aleister Crowley, perhaps one of the most infamous figures in modern occultism.
I know I'm having fun today, so here's my apology if I
know my behavior can be erratic sometimes.
yes, I'm erratic today. That's where we're going.
Crowley was a member of the Golden Dawn before founding his own magical order, the AA. Crowley took a great interest in Enochian magic and expanded upon its practices. He claims to have received revelations and used Enochian calls during various magical operations. Dion Fortune, a British occultist and member of the Golden Dawn, Fortune was known for her writings on magical topics.
And Nick Farrell just put out a great article on her that dispels some of the myths about her, but also that lets you focus on her actual contributions. It's on his Substack, the Lord Manticore Occult Training blog. Well worth the $15 a month.
While less directly involved with Enochian magic, her works influenced later practitioners who integrated Enochian concepts into their practices. Jack Parsons, an American rocket engineer and occultist. Parsons was deeply influenced by Crowley's teachings and practiced Enochian magic. His esoteric practices intersected with his pioneering work in rocketry, reflecting a unique blend of science and the occult. Now, despite its allure and historical significance in the realm of occult practices, Enochian magic has been met with various warnings and cautions from both practitioners and critics. The intricate and powerful nature of this system, which communicates directly with angelic beings, makes it a subject of both reverence and concern. One of the primary warnings revolves around the complexity of Enochian magic. It's not just about reciting incantations or using symbols. It involves a deep understanding of its intricate system. The structure of its magical tablets, and the precise execution of rituals. Inexperienced practitioners might unintentionally misuse these elements, leading to unintended and potential.
My 10-day course makes it very simple. Shout out in the chat if you've done it. Let people know it's awesome. Go to EnochianGrimoire.com. Take my course. Come to EnochiaCon this November.
Potentially harmful consequences. Psychological impact is another consideration. Engaging in intense esoteric practices like Enochian magic can have significant psychological impacts. The deep trance states and altered consciousness often sought in these practices can lead to disorientation, detachment from reality, or psychological distress, especially those not well prepared or mentally resilient. Spiritual dangers. Some warn of the spiritual risks associated with Enochian magic, citing the potential for contacting malevolent or deceptive entities as angels. This is a common caution in many forms of spiritual or occult practice, where discernment is advised in dealing with non-physical entities. Although Crowley was a proponent and practitioner of Enochian magic, he also acknowledged its dangers. He warned about the risks associated with its practice,
still fair to say he was
emphasizing the
one of the
need for
best.
proper mental and spiritual preparation.
He also shows, he demonstrates you don't need to dive into Dee and the theory and everything and learn everything to work the system and do amazing things with it. Like Crowley shows that like no one does, right? The vision, the voice. I mean, he just basically executed the practices learned from the Mathers lessons that he got from Mathers. And then that's what, and it produced that, you know. He added in the trek through the desert, peyote, hashish, and sodomy. But I mean, what's so wrong with I actually don't want to minimize it, like he was just trying to party at the same time. I'm sure that can be an initiatory journey. Not for
Crowley's
me, but
own
it was for him.
experiences, which he documented extensively, included encounters with powerful and often
We should do a live stream where I read from parts of vision of Crowley's autohagiography, right? Wouldn't that be fun? I really don't want to get too much into Crowley on my channel, but I also don't want to not follow my interest, or I don't know. That could be cool. That could be cool. What do you think?
overwhelming spiritual entities. Various contemporary practitioners have echoed these sentiments, warning against the casual or uninformed practice of Enochian magic. They often stress the importance of understanding the historical, cultural, and theoretical background of this system before attempting its practice. That's why I made this video. As with any serious occult practice, a thorough understanding, respect for the tradition, and awareness of one's own mental and spiritual state are essential before delving into the mysteries of the angelic language. Moving on to the elements and tools.
This really is just how his voice sounds, isn't it? Like, it's like, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, the Californians, like, they're a species.
This system involves a variety of elements and tools, each serving a specific purpose in the ritual practices. Central to Enochian magic is its unique alphabet. This script is used in various aspects of the practice, from inscribing on tools to reciting calls or keys. Beyond the alphabet, the angelic language itself, with its own grammar and syntax, is used in incantations and invocations. Magical diaries, keeping a detailed record of all magical workings, including visions, entities contacted, and results of rituals, is essential in Enochian magic. Scrying tools, tools such as crystal balls or black obsidian mirrors. Magical circles and squares. These are often inscribed with names of God, angels, and angelic letters, serving as protective boundaries and sacred.
What are you talking about? Gurgop says, I'm sorry, 15-minute delay, it seems. I don't know why it would delay. Just jump to the current part of the video. He claims to be a bona fide Kabbalist and that all Hermetic Kabbalists and Christian Kabbalists follow the path of Samael, the angel of Geburah and Mars, I assume is what you mean, right? Wink, wink. He goes by the same handle on YT. Who is he? Who's he? He's AI. I don't know. I don't know if he's AI or just like, you know, groovy. I'm such an idiot.
Sacred spaces for rituals. Enochian tablets. These are 4 large tablets, also known as Watchtowers or Great Tablets, corresponding to the 4 classical elements: earth, air, fire, water. Each tablet is a grid containing letters from the Enochian alphabet, representing various angelic beings. Sigillum Dia Almeth, a complex magical seal often used as a pedestal for the Scrying stone. Enochian keys or calls. These are a series of...
The table we're having made for EnochiaCon this year, because wood is so expensive in Canada, so we're having one made in the States rather than transport ours. And it's this guy, you know, Kyle. You might, if you're in the Enochian community with the on the Facebook pages, you know who I mean. And amazing, thank you, Kyle. Like, obviously, you know, I'm paying for it, but the work he's putting into it, I could never afford. And it's going to be this gorgeous table with a full setup. You know, we do the whole thing because that's what we do here when we do it. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there. So we'll have it for all the conferences, for MagiCon as well next April, which is going to be good. And from one of the guests has just put out a big D paper, D book. So hopefully that follows through. Doesn't follow through. Hopefully that follows through.
Incantations in the Enochian language used to invoke and command angels. Robes and ritual garments. These are often specific to the ritual and may be inscribed with Enochian script and symbols. The Holy Table or Table of Practice. A table with specific symbols and names used as a focal point for angelic interactions. At a certain point in our history, science and magic diverged. They used to be the same thing. Humans interested in science were also interested...
I mean, I got to mention, for those of you who might not know, the irony of making these beautiful Enochian tables with all the setups and the 3 layers of multicolored cloths. By the time it's all done, all you see is a white cube with a crystal on top, raised slightly because there's a wax tablet under the cloth. And there's 3 cloths in total. And the cloths, all the layers of the tablet. But you've got this white cube of sort of divinity. And then if you want to understand why the cube is important, then you watch Dr. Terry Burns' 50-hour video series on the Monas Hieroglyphica of John Dee on her Dr. Burns channel. If you haven't started that viewership education, go do it soon. It's worth it.
In the esoteric
You'll
side
gain
of
IQ.
things. John Dee was one of those humans. He was a very important figure to the occult sciences and still is today. Same with Edward Kelly. John Dee was a noted scholar, astronomer, astrologer, and mathematician of the Elizabethan era and played a significant role in the court of Queen Elizabeth I. His contributions, however, extended beyond the conventional scholarly realm into the mystical and esoteric, which included practices that many contemporaries considered magical. Dee was a trusted astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I. He provided counsel on international affairs, utilizing his extensive knowledge of geography.
See, in his being more vague and less eager to make big, bold statements, he's actually ending up being more accurate than both Dot Darling and the guy who has the most views, over 1 million, the one we covered at the beginning. So that's impressive. Like, by him just being a bit more general, he's actually nailing it on the head. So well done, good sir.
And his skills in navigation. He was involved in planning voyages for exploration and advising on colonial expansion, contributing to the early formation of the British Empire. His expertise in mathematics and navigation significantly influenced the education and training of English navigators. He advocated for the expansion of scientific knowledge and...
So, Gergovs, you're saying this guy who runs this goes by Restoration of the Breach. He's a real boy, not a AI. And that he thinks that he's a real Kabbalist. So he's a devout Jew following the Torah, I suppose. And that all Hermetic Kabbalists, which is what he's teaching and practicing here and showing, why would he teach Hermetic Kabbalah in his courses if he thinks he's a real Kabbalist and that the rest of us follow the path, the angel of light? I assume he means Samael and the negative version of the angel of lies and the poison of God, the Clipothic version of Samael, as opposed to the heavenly. They have the same name. It's a hard determination to make, but archangels are complex beings. Of course, they have their vastness. It's the whole point of them. It's the whole point. Seriously, though, I'd love to see your view on it. My view on his handle? My view on what? No, according to him, he is teaching the true Kabbalah, and the rest of us have a Diddy Epstein. Oh, I mean, obviously he'd never talk to me, but that would be hilarious if he would. I could like smoke a joint and be like, hey man, I'm in Vancouver and we just like want to have a hangout and be like, totally, right? Talk Kabbalah, Boker Tov, Shmi RC.
Was also sought for occult and spiritual matters. One of the most famous stories about Dee involves his prediction of the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588. According to legend, Dee foresaw that a great storm would scatter the Spanish fleet, leading to England's victory. Dee
That's made up. So no, there was the attack, and Dee used Befefes allegedly to call the storm. Befefes controls the seas, and Dee referenced that Befefes was there for Dee in extremis, and then twice, and both times Queen Elizabeth allegedly asked Dee for help from the spirits, and he did it. Once it worked, did it a second time it worked. That's the story.
Predicting the defeat of the Spanish Armada through a storm, whether true or not, encapsulates the aura that surrounded him, a figure of both scholarly repute and mystical power. This story, while lacking direct historical evidence, fits well within the narrative of Dee as a master astrologer capable of foreseeing and influencing great events. Dee also had interests in alchemy, the pursuit of turning base metals into gold, and the search for the philosopher's stone. John Dee's life and work straddled the line between the emerging scientific disciplines and the mystical traditions of the Renaissance period. His contributions to Queen Elizabeth's court were both practical and esoteric, blending his extensive scholarly knowledge with his interests in astrology, alchemy, and angelic magic. In regards to...
And there's lots of details on all of this in the biographies of Dee, and Burns gets into quite a bit of it as well. Dee's doings with Queen Elizabeth, like when he wrote the Monas Hieroglyphica, they spent days probably in her chambers with him explaining everything in it to her, like initiating her into all the very well embedded secrets, including like how to fire a cannonball accurately in his whole study of parabolas. Hyperbole. It's absolutely incredible. Here's the I can't reach it. Here's my copy because I'm going through the course again. Get it from Ouroboros Press, printed in Canada, but ironically not purchasable in Canada. Or you could contact Dr. Burns, get the Monas Hieroglyphica, and then follow along her YouTube course. 50 hours of YouTube videos. Follow along and study it with her as she presents every single, like sometimes there's an hour spent just on a paragraph or one idea or a word. Many hours are spent on single words, and it's absolutely fascinating. And yeah, I do feel like I gained a couple IQ points going through those first 50 hours.
Discovering the angelic language, he brought the mind of a cryptographer to the table. Now, Edward Kelly, John Dee's scrying partner, led a life that was as enigmatic and controversial as it was influential in the realm of esoteric and alchemical studies. Edward Kelly's early life is shrouded in mystery, but he is believed to have been born in Worcester, England, around 1555. Kelly's initial foray into the occult world began with his interest in alchemy, a pursuit that was part mystical and part scientific. Kelly met Dee in the early 1580s, and they quickly formed a partnership. Dee was already deeply interested in the occult, and he had been searching for a skilled scryer or medium to assist in his spiritual experiments. Kelly had the ability to communicate with angels through crystal balls and black obsidian mirrors. He became Dee's principal...
They never used an obsidian mirror.
prior, and together they embarked on the adventure that we're talking about now. Edward Kelly was the vision guy. Kelly's visions and communications were crucial in the development of Enochian magic. His descriptions of
This guy doing these videos is not Euro, right?
the angelic language and the complex hierarchies of the angelic realm formed the basis of this unique system. The combination of John Dee's intellect and Edward Kelly's visions made receiving this angelic language possible. John Dee was an intellect.
Boom, we did it. 55555, all fives. Well, actually, we hit 555 5561. So boom, thank you. We did it. 55555. Fucking awesome. We'll do all the. It's so silly. Isn't the world today so silly? Just, yeah, it's crazy. It's such a crazy, funny, silly world. All right. Do you know the true pronunciation of the Emerald Tablet? Do you know what it is? Do you know?
Smaragdine tablet, or the Tabula Smaragdina. Boy, I fucked that up.
He intellectualized the occult. Being an
Cheers,
intellectual,
everybody.
heavily identifying
Thanks
with
for celebrating
mind
with me.
can be a double-edged sword. Intellect will allow a person to understand something, but intellect is often the very thing that will prevent that same person from having a mystical experience. If we're always trying to figure something out, we will miss out on many of the profound messages that come to us in colors, sounds, feelings, and compact downloads.
Hey, at least he's
Dee
talking about it. I
struggled
love
in this
that.
area, which is
It's
where
better than the satanic panic shit of like the occult, the exorcist, demons. It's like that. Like, yeah, let's be like, hey, so it's this Greek thing, which was Mercury and Thoth, but this also Arabic early science. Like, let's go that direction with inquiry, even in the popular sphere, rather than like the demons are possessing liberals and the right-wing priests are going to save them. Like, oh, it's hard sometimes.
My emotions! My emotions!
You missed that one, didn't you? All right, let's keep doing it, but I need to take a quick bathroom break before we get back to the fun. Maybe do a quick little high magic ritual. And so enjoy this song I wrote. Yeehaw. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Yeah. The purest Kabbalist shake when you mention Alexandria. Well, Kabbalah started in the Middle Ages, so I don't know why they actually care about Alexandria. You know? Oh, fuck. Uh-oh. Where were we?
Associated with the Enochian to the element extensively included encounters with powerful and often overwhelming spiritual entities. Various contemporary practitioners have echoed these sentiments, warning against the casual or uninformed practice of Enochian magic. They often stress the importance of understanding the historical, cultural, and theoretical background of this system before attempting its practice. That's why I made this video. As with any serious occult practice, a thorough understanding, respect for the tradition, and awareness of one's own mental and spiritual state are essential before delving into the mysteries of the angelic language. Moving on to the elements and tools. This system involves a variety of elements and tools, each serving a specific purpose in the ritual practices. Central to Enochian magic is its unique alphabet. This script is used in various aspects of the practice, from inscribing on tools to reciting calls or keys. Beyond the alphabet, the angelic language itself, with its own grammar and syntax, is used in incantations and invocations. Magical diaries, keeping a detailed record of all magical workings, including visions, entities contacted, and results of rituals, is essential in Enochian magic. Scrying tools, tools such as crystal balls or black obsidian mirrors. Magical circles and squares. These are often inscribed with names of God, angels, and angelic letters, serving as protective boundaries and sacred spaces for rituals. Enochian tablets. These are 4 large tablets, also known as Watchtowers or Great Tablets. Chorus about Dee involves his prediction of the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588. According to legend, John Dee's life and work straddled the line between the emerging scientific disciplines and the mystical traditions of the Renaissance period. His contributions to Queen Elizabeth's court were both practical and esoteric, blending his extensive scholarly knowledge with his interests in astrology, alchemy, and angelic magic. In regards to discovering the angelic language, he brought the mind of a cryptographer to the table. Now, Edward Kelly, John Dee's scrying partner, led a life that was as enigmatic and controversial as it was influential in the realm of esoteric and alchemical studies.
But Kelly wasn't a cryptographer.
Edward Kelly's early life is shrouded in mystery, but he is believed to have been born in Worcester, England. Dee struggled in this area, which is where Edward Kelly came in. Kelly was a feeler, a seer. Having said that, combining our intellect with
that's
our
really
ability
accurate.
to just be is a very important balance to strike in order to maximize our effectiveness on this journey. Great, so now, how do we learn and practice this? As I mentioned earlier, Lon Milo Excerpt's book is a really good, comprehensive blueprint that will save you a lot of time. If you read this book, you will essentially have all the information you need to successfully perform Enochian vision magic. I have an Amazon.
And Lon's presenting at EnochiaCon this November via Zoom because he's getting old. So don't miss it. It's going to be good. Because after his presentation, we'll talk. Like every Q&A becomes a mini roundtable, is what we found the last couple of years with, the experts.
Link to it in the pinned comment below. When it comes to my personal practice in this area, my communication with angels in the angelic language, at least for right now, is for myself and I alone. The angelic language
Kelly
is
was
very
definitely a cunning
sacred
man.
to me. I create guided ceremonies, and then I
so is
post
Dee,
them on the
but
internet.
they were
Doing that, even
that.
talking about these ceremonies I practice, it does scatter my energy to a degree. It puts my energy field on display where it is then open to opinions and judgments. I love creating guided.
Yeah, alchemy doesn't have anything to do with Enochian conjuration of angels. But they used the fruits of alchemy in it and talked about alchemy, spiritual alchemy. Yes. Yes. Master cunning man, probably.
Ceremonies, and I shall continue doing so, but as
Dr. Burns thinks the Book of Oberon, the Book of Magic, that grimoire was Kelly's grimoire. Right. And Dee's initial scryer was ousted sort of because Dee's friends who were other occultists, quote unquote occultists, they had the whole school of night going on at that time that Dee was connected to. They brought Kelly as an expert, as they're like, hey, Dee, we hear you're working with a scryer. Your guy's no good. You need this guy. This guy can actually talk to spirits, dude. And they showed up with Talbot at Dee's house as here's the guy you need to work with since you're going to take this so seriously and everything.
it stands, currently I am keeping my Enochian practice private. Lon Milo Excerpt, however, was open enough to write a whole book on this process, and I will read his preparation ceremony to you right now. A portion of this covers chanting in the angelic language. Due to the powerful and oftentimes precarious nature of this language, I am not going to vocalize these chants today, simply because just hearing them could evoke something wild in a new magician that they may not be ready for, but begin quote. In the middle of the night, it's 3:43 a.m. I've been up for about a half an hour, bathing, dressing, and preparing myself to operate. In just a few minutes, I will turn off the computer here in my office, take up my almond wand, and go into the darkened living room. There, I will quietly perform the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, light 2 tapered candles, and sit down before the holy table. Once comfortably seated, I will close my eyes and pray. Teach me, O Creator of all things, to have correct knowledge and understanding, for your wisdom is all that I desire. Speak your word in my ear, O Creator of all things, and set your wisdom in my heart. Amen. I will then open my eyes, take the golden ring, and quietly recite the prayer of the ring. Behold the ring, lo, this is it, wherewith all miracles and divine works and wonders were wrought by Solomon. This is it, which the archangel Michael has revealed to me. This is it, which philosophy dreameth of. This is it, which the angels scarce know. This is it, and blessed be his name. Yea, his name be blessed forever. Without this,
you are in for a treat.
Is all things. Wonders are in him, and his name is wonderful. His name works wonders from generation to generation. Amen. I will put on the ring and then take up the golden layman that is attached to the black ribbon. Before putting it around my neck, I will again pray. Behold the layman, as the holy table consolates heaven and earth. Let this layman, which I place over my heart, consolate me to the holy table. Amen. I will then take up my almond wand, reach across the holy table, tap the upper right-hand corner, and begin to chant. As I do so, I will move the tip of the wand from right to left, along the far edge of the table, and chant. Then, moving the tip of the wand down the left edge of the table, I will continue to chant.
Say we just stand here in silence.
Along the bottom edge. then up the right-hand edge to finish where I started. Quantify in metaphors that haunts, but then I will consciousness. I'll be high as a kite and struggling to avoid drifting into a directionless rapture. I will no longer be the overweight knot of worries and vices that haunts the daylight world of bills and phone calls and deadlines, vampires of time. I will be a magician, a key player in the business of creation.
It's bold. It's bold. You know, to do a video teaching Lon's teaching word for word. Yeah, like I think Scott or Aaron would have been upset if I just took their scripts and recorded them and sold them. I spent almost a decade developing what I've put out. And I guess that's the new thing. It's like, oh, they're published books, so anyone can. That's the attitude now. And there's no respect. I ain't getting no respect. Yeah, no respect. Yeah, it's too bad. But Lon should maybe just get a Kajabi site too and kick this punk's ass.
Spiritual being occupying my own indispensable rung on a hierarchical ladder of spiritual beings. Gods, archangels, and angels, spirits and demons, spiritual entities who personify in
Very
metaphoric
cool,
technicolor
Lisa.
every natural force, every monad of energy, every atom of matter, every concept and principle, potentiality and tendency in the visible and invisible cosmos. My living room will disappear, and in its place will tower the temple of the universe, holy ground demarcated by a consecrated carpet of red silk, upon which rests the holy table, the center of the universe, the holy of holies, where heaven touches earth. The table is completely veiled by a red silk cloth, with its gold tassels that hang from each corner. The cloth conceals an elaborately painted and engraved tabletop, the perimeter of which is carved with 84 squares containing letters from a sacred angelic alphabet. Letters whose names I chanted in the angelic tongue during my 7 rounds of chanting. A large carved hexagram spans the entire inner surface of the tabletop, and in the center of the hexagram broods a large rectangle made of 12 squares, each containing an oversized angelic letter, the same letters whose names I chanted during the 2nd round of chanting, artfully carved into the surface of the table. 7 talismans, ensigns of creation, are arrayed around the central rectangle. They are made of purified tin and are lettered in the angelic script. The centerpiece of the holy table is the Sigillum Dii Ameth, a wax disc.
Dii Ameth. Dei means God. Dei means God. Dei means God. Emet, it's written there in Latin, but is Hebrew. There's no Latin word emet. It's just a Latinization spelling of the Hebrew word emet, aleph mem tav, which means truth. Dei emet. Sigillum Dei emet. E-M-E-T would be the Hebrew orthography. Aleph Mem Tav.
Approximately 9 inches in diameter and 1.5 inches thick, bearing the carved image of a complex diagram consisting of an interlocked heptagram, 2 heptagons, a pentagram, and an array of numbers and letters which, when decoded, spell the names of 7 sets of 7 divine beings. 7 who rest in 7, 7 who live by 7, the 7 who govern the 7, and 7 by whom all government is.
So I'm doing events. I really want to see if we can get deeper engagement than what's happening. I think we can. You know, there's amazing work being done. Robert Podgorski's new book on Enochian sigil magic is going to be groundbreaking. His last Enochian book was groundbreaking. Scott Stenwick's new work is earth-shattering for Enochian practitioners who always avoided cacodemons pretty much like the plague, unless you're Athena Wallander from the old Temple Tahuti here. Yeah, we got to get deeper than this, and we got to not let people like this dilute the narrative too much, I guess, by saying, hey, yeah, let's talk about this. That's what we're saying here. Let's talk about this in more detail. Jason Liu did a great presentation on the Book of Soiga, and that was very cool. We'll have that out to members soon.
4 smaller waxed versions of the sigillum wrapped in red silk bags rest under the legs of the holy table, insulating it from distracting geocurrents. The chanting completed, I will unveil a circular black mirror made of highly
Sorry about that. Sorry. Red silk cloth on the ground, wax tablets, boxes over them so the legs don't touch the tablets or crush them, and then going up the rest, you know, the multicolored cloth and the final white cloth.
Polished obsidian. I have it placed in a stand
no
directly
obsidian.
upon
Wax
the covered
needs to be beeswax.
And I will carefully angle it so I see my dimly lit face reflected in its pool of deep blackness. After only a few moments, the reflection of my face will disappear, and I will see with magic eyes and hear with magic ears. Now the vision magic begins. In the middle of the night, I will call upon the angels, and they will answer. End quote. Thank you for watching.
Well, thank you for hanging out. That was fun. I'll answer any questions now, so let's hang out a bit longer. Yeah, I can give you another max 30 minutes. We can hit the 4-hour mark if you guys want to talk. Boom, 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 boom. How's it going? Enochian Magick. Let me think of, you get some questions. We'll listen to my song. Register for EnochiaCon. Like and subscribe and come up with some questions. Shoot them on the screen and we'll talk about them after this song. Okay, so what do we have here? Yeah, thank you all for all the support and everything. Really enjoy the music. Thank you. Yeah, it's fun recording again and doing lots more recording. Keys. And none of those videos telling anyone where to start. Not a question, just talking about it. I did at www.enochiangrimoire.com. I've laid it all out. It's all there. And then you not only get the 10-day intro step-by-step, really handheld step-by-step course into the traditional practice, going from heptarchia to watchtowers to aethers, but you get everything. So everything I keep adding to it every year, you get access to at enochiangrimoire.com. That is the way to start. And to go to enochiacon.com, enochiangrimoire.com, and enochiacon.com to register for the conference, which you already have. So you have started off very well. If you have other questions about where to start, this is a great time to ask them, because that's what we're here to discuss. So there's a lot of different approaches people take. I've commented a lot on, again, the difference between, as we have in the past, but I got into a bit more detail this time about the details of some of the D era versus the GD Thelema era. But there's always more to talk about. So yeah, if you have questions, we certainly covered, I think, all the bases of why I think you should start at the beginning and then work through the system, not jumping just to Jebethel, but do the initiation in the Watchtowers and then work with the Watchtowers. If you're already working with Watchtowers, why not do the self-initiation in the Watchtowers? Like, you know, sometimes people like to shit on self-initiation, but that's the only initiations Dee and Kelly got from the angels, was self-initiations. So the Watchtower one is one. And yeah, before that, I think you should start with the heptarchia. Diving straight into the 19-day initiation into the Watchtowers is not the beginning of the system. The Gebethel is not the beginning of the system. The beginning is the heptarchia. And so if you start there, you're golden. And you also get to see the system unfold as it unfolded for Dee and Kelly originally. And that's sort of the purest side of it. And Cultology's question: what do you think is the most common misunderstanding about John Dee's magic system? That it's not angelic, for sure. Lisa says, seems Enochi caused an advanced practitioner event. Are there? Yeah, it's definitely not advanced. There's lots of advanced stuff there, but it's there's a lot of beginner stuff there too, because advanced is more about where you're at, not where the teacher's teaching from. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I could say about that. Thanks for liking the music. Yeah, no, it's you know, it's a bad teacher if they can't teach to multiple levels at the same time. That's a beginner teacher. I'm trying to avoid those. Trying to bring in the good ones. Yeah. All good. Enochian. Yeah. I didn't use it once, but we can all agree, in general, that
the people are retarded.
Say it with me one more time.
The people are retarded.
And just one more for good luck. The
people are retarded.
Exactly. There we go.
Solomonic magic is not a thing.
Like and subscribe. Yeah, there's some videos I probably should remove from my playlist here. Delete that. All right. Any other questions? Well, this was so much fun. So much fun. Now, another good place to start with Enochian Magick is the book list, which I covered on my YouTube. I did a review of the David R. Jones book list. He was the teacher of Maria Montgomery and definitely one of the most distinguished and remarkable Enochian scholars and magicians. And he passed just a few years ago. I got to chat to him for a couple years before he died. But yeah, and Maria Montgomery will be there at EnochiaCon as well. So that should be fun. Have all those people together. It will be a blast. All right. Thanks again, everyone, for the donations. Kisa, Val, and all the great questions. You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. Let's guitarist and multi-instrumentalist Jesse Waldman playing guitar, steel guitar, and all those instruments there. Me singing. This has been a great night. Thanks, everyone, for celebrating this little milestone. I appreciate it. And I'll see you very soon. I'm not sure what will be next, but I'm sure it'll be good. And I don't know what else to say, but thank you for all the support. Become a channel member. Do the thing. Join the email list. Get involved. Say hello. And other than that, I don't know what else to say, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And one last thing.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.